Chapter 2392. 3 years ago, the entire biome domain was under the control of the Copper Sparrow Tower. But now it was completely different. In a city, the cultivators of the divine, illuminating ancient sect dared to openly issue an order to arrest the people of the Copper Sparrow Tower hiding in the city, treating them as remnants of the evil. One could imagine that in the current dark world, the situation of the Copper Sparrow Tower was most likely not optimistic. Lin, Sun, and Goldie looked at each other. Then they followed them quietly. In the northeastern region of the city, a dilapidated ancient building stood. One of the courtyards was covered with a restrictive power that was difficult to detect. My lord, although the forces of the Copper Sparrow Tower in the dark world have long gone into hiding, the divine illuminating ancient sect and the hidden land realm clearly have no intention of letting this go. In the past 2 years, the forces that have been hiding like us have all suffered a destructive blow when they were discovered. A beautiful woman in purple said worriedly, and I received news that the divine illuminating ancient sect has already launched an arrest operation in the entire biome domain. I'm worried that it won't be long before the enemy comes knocking on our door. There were many cultivators of the Copper Sparrow Tower standing nearby, and their expressions were uncertain at this moment. My lord, why don't we leave? Many people asked as they looked at the same person. It was a dignified, skinny man named Sun Yu, who had a cultivation of the third stage of the quasi-emperor realm. In the past, Sun Yu was the city lord of this city, wielding great power and was famous far and wide. But in the past 2 years, he had been like duckweed without roots and could only hide like a mole. He had been on tenterhooks day and night, unable to eat or sleep in peace. Escape? The vast dark world is now controlled by the forces of the divine, illuminating ancient sect and the hidden land realm. Even if we leave this city, where can we escape to? Sun Yu's voice was bitter, and his brows were tightly furrowed. Boom! At this moment, there was a sudden roar outside the courtyard. The restrictive power that covered the surroundings was severely impacted and tossed and shook. At the same time, a loud shout rang out. Remnants of the Copper Sparrow Tower, you've been surrounded. Come out and die. Charge! The expressions of Sun Yu and the others changed, and they felt as if the sky had collapsed. Never had they imagined that this calamity would arrive so quickly. At this moment, Sun Yu seemed as if he'd made a decision, and he gritted his teeth and said fiercely, I'll slaughter a path of blood for all of you later. Every single one of you that can escape counts. Everyone could not help but feel grief and indignation. In the past, as one of the 3 dark giants, when had their Copper Sparrow Pavilion ever suffered such treatment? My lord, we've had enough of these days of fear. You're right. Even if we escape now, where can we escape to? This time we'll fight it out with them. The purple-clothed woman had a crazed look in her eyes, as if she was ready to risk everything. The others nodded in agreement. Since there was nowhere to run, it was better to fight to the death. They had had enough of these days of sleepless nights and hiding from place to place. Sun Yu clenched his fists tightly as an indescribable feeling of depression, grief, and indignation surged in his heart, and he was just about to say something. Boom! The restrictive formation that covered the courtyard had already collapsed. Numerous ferocious figures stood in the sky outside the courtyard, and all of them were the disciples of the divine illumination sect. When they saw Sun Yu and the other experts of the Copper Sparrow Pavilion, a wave of savage laughter instantly resounded, and their eyes revealed gloominess and cruelty. It was as if they'd captured a group of prey. The robust man in the lead waved his hand and shouted loudly, Remember, don't let a single one of them escape. No matter if they're male or female, behead them all and hang their corpses above the city gates as a warning to others. Sun Yu and the others were furious. Hang their corpses above the city gates after beheading them? That was a complete humiliation to the members of the Copper Sparrow Pavilion. Kill! The extremely excited experts of the Divine Illumination sect shouted as they took action, and they charged into the courtyard like a net that covered the sky. Fight it out with them. Sun Yu howled with bloodshot eyes. However, right when they intended to attack, a cold grunt resounded. After that, the figures of the experts of the divine illumination sect that charged over stiffened, and then their figures exploded into pieces in midair while a rain of blood sprayed down like a waterfall. It was a ghastly scarlet color. Sun Yu and the others were horrified, and their eyes widened. It was just a cold grunt, but nearly 30 disciples of the divine illumination sect had been killed. Regardless of their cultivation, they were all killed on the spot. The bloody scene made Sun Yu and the others feel like they were dreaming, and it was so unreal. Who? The robust man in the black robe seemed to be greatly stimulated, and he screamed in shock. Who dares to be the enemy of the divine illumination sect? Aren't you afraid of being implicated? He used the name of the divine illumination sect to threaten them, but in fact, he was already frightened to the extreme. A large hand silently appeared and grabbed the neck of the black-robed, robust man. The owner of the large hand wore moon-white clothes, and his figure was tall, handsome, and otherworldly. He faintly possessed the bearing of a banished immortal. It was Lin's son. Beside him, Big Yellow's dog face was extremely gloomy and ugly, and his eyes were cold as he said, "Why don't you let me do it?" Lin's son sighed softly. "They're just small fries. If you make a move, you won't be able to leave any of them alive." Big Yellow was very angry, or it could be said that ever since he heard about second senior brother Zhongxiu, he was in a state where he could go berserk at any moment. Under such circumstances, Lin Sun did not dare to let Big Yellow do as he pleased. As he spoke, Lin Sun had already begun to search his soul. At the same time, Sun Yu and the others recovered from their shock, and they seemed to recognize Big Yellow's identity. You're Battle Emperor Shao. Battle Emperor Shao. They would rather provoke the King of Hell than Big Yellow. In the dark world of the past, Big Yellow's reputation was enough to make any emperor tremble, and he was regarded as the most ferocious being under the command of the Copper Sparrow Pavilion Master. All of you have been wronged. Big Yellow felt a little sour at the sight of Sun Yu and the others' excited expressions. When had the people of the Copper Sparrow Pavilion ever been bullied like this? No. Sun Yu and the others were all very excited. It really was Battle Emperor Shao. To them, this was like finding their pillar of support. Big Yellow spoke in a deep and powerful voice. "Don't worry. With me around in the future, I won't let the people of the Copper Sparrow Pavilion suffer anymore." Big Yellow, ask them about what happened to the Copper Sparrow Pavilion in the past 2 years. The more detailed, the better. At this moment, Lin Sun had already completed the soul search, and the black-robed man in his hand had turned into ashes that scattered. "All right," Big Yellow nodded. 10 minutes later, Lin Sun and Big Yellow obtained what they wanted to know. Ever since Heavenly Emperor Shur and the Copper Sparrow Pavilion Master disappeared from the Kunlun ruins, the forces led by the 2 giants of the Divine Illumination Ancient Sect and the Hidden Land Realm had set off an operation to annihilate the Copper Sparrow Pavilion in the entire Dark World. In the past 2 years, the territories and cities that were originally controlled by the Copper Sparrow Pavilion had all been plundered and occupied. The powerhouses of the Copper Sparrow Pavilion that were in hiding and hibernating had also suffered a destructive blow. Once they were discovered, they would be mercilessly slaughtered and killed. Up until now, in the vast dark world, any mention of the Copper Sparrow Pavilion was related to destruction, blood, and slaughter. On the other hand, the Copper Sparrow Pavilion had been completely removed from the ranks of the 3 giants of the dark world. Currently, the Divine Illumination Ancient Sect and the Hidden Land Realm were the rulers of the dark world. After understanding all of this, Big Yellow was so angry that his eyes turned red, and he gritted his teeth so hard that they almost shattered. He had nowhere to vent his hatred. Lin Sun could not help but frown. A long time ago, he had become enemies with the Hidden Land Realm and the Divine Illumination Ancient Sect. There was a deep enmity between them. Now that he knew what had happened to the Copper Sparrow Pavilion, Lin Sun was extremely furious, and he felt even more disgusted and disgusted. "Big Yellow, let's return to the Hidden Land first." In the end, Lin Sun made a decision. He was worried that something might happen to the Hidden Land. Lin Sun had obviously thought of this as well, and he agreed without hesitation. The Western Horizontal region was one of the 33 regions of the Dark World, and it was controlled by one of the three giants of the Dark World, the Copper Sparrow Pavilion. At the border of the West Horizontal region was a blood-red ocean that surged, and it was called the Indefinite Sea of Blood. It was called a place of death by the locals. Since ancient times until now, any expert that entered this sea had practically never returned, and only death awaited them. According to rumor, an extremely terrifying primeval ferocious soul lay dormant in the depths of the Indefinite Sea of Blood. Supposedly, it was a monster formed from the resentment of an Emperor Realm figure that had fallen. After experiencing countless years of transformation, all of those primeval ferocious souls had become extremely terrifying. The hidden land that was regarded as the primordial ancestral land of the hidden Mist House was located within a secret realm in the depths of the Indefinite Sea of Blood. 2 days later, Lin Sun and Big Yellow arrived at the banks of the Indefinite Sea of Blood. The surface of the sea surged with layers of blood-red waves, and even the sky was dyed the color of blood, causing it to seem strange and horrifying. The piercingly cold sea breeze blew over, and it was mixed with strands of a ferocious aura. All those years ago when he'd headed to the Hidden Land for the first time, Lin Sun had seen the drunkard, martial Emperor Heavenly Destruction, and Big Yellow who'd arrived on a small boat. As soon as they arrived at the shore of the Indefinite Sea of Blood, Lin Sun and Big Yellow immediately noticed that there were many powerful auras of the Emperor Realm lurking near this coast. These auras of the Emperor Realm were distributed in different areas, like an inescapable net, completely sealing off this area. No matter who appeared here, they would be noticed immediately. It's the old bastards from the Hidden Land Realm and the divine Sunshine Ancient Sect. Big Yellow's face darkened, and a bad premonition surged in his heart. The enemy had already stationed near the entrance to the Hidden Land. What kind of attack had happened in the Hidden Land now? Their stationing here only proves that they haven't completely conquered the Hidden Land with their strength. This is not bad news. Lin Sun said quickly. Battle Emperor Shao. This evil dog has appeared. The man next to the evil dog seems to be Lin Daoyuan. A burst of noise and surprise sounded. Then, the Emperor Realm figures who had been dormant in the nearby area rushed out one after another. There were more than a dozen of them, and they were filled with monstrous auras of terror. This piece of heaven and earth trembled, and the atmosphere was oppressive. These old monsters of the Emperor Realm from the Hidden Land Realm and the Divine Sunshine Ancient Sect all looked at Lin Sun and Big Yellow in surprise. It seemed that they didn't expect that under the current situation of the world, they still had the courage to appear here. Please remember the original domain name of this book. Literature Library Mobile Version Website. Chapter 2393. Big Yellow's eyes suddenly turned cold. Battle Emperor Shao, how dare you show yourself? Don't you know that your master is in trouble in the Kunlun ruins? A man with a cold expression spoke in a mocking tone. Many people had a playful look in their eyes. The Bronze Sparrow Tower had long fallen into decline without the Bronze Sparrow Tower Master. He was just Battle Emperor Shao. What would he do? Everyone, if we deal with Battle Emperor Shao now, will it be called beating a dog when it's down? A woman smiled sweetly, causing many people to laugh. However, many people were sizing Lin Sun up. Emperor Daoyuan. Who could forget that this young man had once become an emperor in nirvana of freedom and obtained the greatest opportunity? Only one lotus bloomed during the immemorial tribulation. Over the past 3 years, countless major forces in the starry sky had been frantically searching for the first person to become a martial emperor in 100,000 years. Some wanted revenge, while others wanted to take away his opportunity. Unfortunately, he seemed to have vanished from the world in the past 3 years, never to be seen again. But now, he had appeared in front of the indefinite blood sea. For a moment, many old monsters had strange thoughts. Everyone, please be careful. The Daoyuan Emperor's cultivation base is already at the 3rd level of the Emperor Realm. With his exceptional cultivation path, I'm afraid he can kill a 5th level Emperor Realm existence. An old emperor stage monk from the Hidden Land realm with a stern expression and a solemn temperament spoke indifferently. Many people's pupils shrank. In the past 100,000 years, Lin Sun was the first person to become an emperor. He was like an anomaly that attracted the attention of the heavens. The battle prowess of an emperor had even caused a heated discussion in the world, but no one could give an accurate answer. After all, there were too few people in this world who had truly witnessed the might of Emperor Ju Yin. Lin Sun was the only one who could become an emperor in the past 100,000 years. However, everyone was certain that an emperor was terrifying enough to be invincible in the same realm. He could even kill someone stronger than him. Therefore, no one dared to doubt the words of the old emperor stage monk from the Hidden Land realm. Unfortunately, although they no longer regarded Lin Sun as an ordinary person, they were still limited by their own cognition. It was impossible for them to know how terrifying the Dao Yuan emperor in front of them was now. How about this? Let's kill that hound first, then deal with Lin Dao Yuan? Someone suggested, eager to take action. Sure, that's good too. This battle emperor, Shao, poses the greatest threat. We cannot underestimate him. Upon hearing that, Big Yellow, which had been quiet all this while, laughed out of exasperation. It revealed its white teeth and said, "Young fella, I'll leave these things to you. I'll rush to the Hidden Land to take a look." His voice was low, and it was obvious that he was trying his best to control the killing intent in his heart. The great emperors were dumbfounded. They couldn't believe their ears. Lin Daoyuan alone was enough to deal with all of them? Is this evil dog crazy? But Lin Sun nodded and said, "Go ahead. Don't waste time." More than a dozen Emperor Realm existences could do whatever they wanted in the Dark World. But for Lin Sun and Goldie, who had made a mess in the Dragon Palace and fought against White Tiger and Black Tortoise, this kind of camp, it's really not enough. Swoosh! Goldie turned around and moved through the void, heading towards the depths of the unstable Blood Sea. You want to leave? Leave your life behind. Loud shouts rang out as several old monsters attacked at the same time. They took out their Imperial weapons and charged at Big Yellow, completely igniting the battle. Boom! The heavens and earth turned upside down. The coast within a radius of 3,000 miles exploded, evaporating the seawater. Divine light rolled down like the water of the Milky Way. Lin Sun didn't help. With Goldie's power, this level of power couldn't stop him from leaving. But that didn't mean that Lin Sun didn't do anything. Clang! The sword hummed like a tide, resounding through the universe. The sword cauldron appeared, releasing billions of divine light that illuminated the sky. But what was faster than all of this was a Taoist sword that slashed out. The Taoist sword was vast, surrounded by purple phoenix flames of order. It flashed in the void. Poof! A third-level emperor who was closest to Lin Sun was killed on the spot. The unparalleled torrent of sword chi ravaged the place, evaporating his corpse in an instant. Not even a speck of dust was left behind. Everyone was shocked and agitated. Many old monsters in the Emperor realm turned pale. In the blink of an eye, an emperor was killed. This bloody scene made them dare not pay attention to Goldie, who had already teleported away. They all summoned their power, summoning their monarch weapons and locking their monarch consciousness on Lin Sun. Emperor Daoyuan, you are the one and only great emperor in the world. If you surrender now and join the Hidden Land realm, I will spare your life this time, an old monk from the Hidden Land realm said in a low voice. Said an old monk from the Hidden Land realm in a deep voice. As he spoke, endless black Buddha's light emerged from his body, condensing into strange black lotuses that hung and floated around him. In his palm, there was a dim alms bowl. There was chaotic power of law enshrouding it, making one's heart palpitate. Lin Sun said indifferently, "Bald donkey, one day I will go to the Hidden Land realm to settle the blood feud." Clang! The Taoist sword hummed and slashed forward, tearing a ghastly crack in the sky. The brilliant sword power made the old monk from the Hidden Land realm shiver. He sensed the danger and did not hesitate to attack. Boom! Hundreds and thousands of black lotuses whizzed out, releasing great wisdom and majesty that could suppress Zhou Su and could not be shaken. The Black Lotus World. It was the supreme imperial inheritance of the Hidden Land realm. The Black Lotuses were like karma, condensed into a world, like the Buddha suppressing the Buddha, enough to trap and kill all evil spirits. However, under Lin Sun's sword, the world condensed by thousands of Black Lotuses was directly torn apart, producing a deafening explosion. Endless light rain splashed and swept in all directions. The power of this sword shocked the old monk so much that his face changed completely. His body felt cold, and he activated the alms bowl in his hand as if he was desperate. Go! The alms bowl rose into the air, and a torrent of chaotic Buddha light poured out from it. It was vast and mighty, filling up the mountains and rivers of the universe. However, all of this was obliterated by that slash, and it couldn't even withstand a single blow. Oh no! The old monk was horrified. We tried to dodge. The Taoist sword had already crushed the void and drowned his figure in a terrible roar. Bang! 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 The Ksitigarbha monk's indestructible body crumbled inch by inch like fragile glass. In the blink of an eye, his soul dissipated. This series of scenes happened in the blink of an eye. A 7th-level Emperor Realm old monk was killed with a single sword strike. That fierce, overbearing, and bloody scene caused a wave of exclamations to resound out in the surroundings, and all of them were astounded while their hearts trembled. Previously, the old monk had warned them not to underestimate Lin Sun. He thought that with Lin Sun's combat strength, it was very possible for him to cross realms and kill a 6th-level Emperor Realm cultivator. But now, people realized that the old monk's warning was right. The only mistake was his understanding of Zhu Yin the Great. There was still a huge gap between them. Kill. Attack together. Thunderous roars rang out. More than a dozen emperors from the Hidden Land realm and the divine Sunshine ancient sect attacked with all their strength. They did not dare to hold back, especially the two 8th-level emperors. One was the Heaven Constellation Sword Emperor, and the other was the Tiandu Buddhist Lord. A long time ago, they were the terrifying existences of the three greats of darkness. At this moment, all of them had stern expressions on their faces as they attacked with all their might. Boom! For a time, the light of Taoism rumbled, the emperor treasures whistled, and the turbulence of destruction spread out wantonly. It caused the heavens and the earth to dim, the void to wail, and all kinds of horrifying phenomena appeared. Even the western horizontal region, which was tens of thousands of miles away from the unstable Blood Sea, and many of the cities there trembled. Countless experts were shocked and shivered. This was an emperor battle, after all. How could it be compared to ordinary battles? And in this siege, Lin Sun launched a fierce, bloody, and domineering slaughter. Clang! 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 The Taoist sword was like lightning, like fire, like a dream. It displayed the supreme sword way, and the sword intent it released reached the 9 heavens and the 10 directions. It crisscrossed and tore the sky apart. Every single sword strike seemed to carry unparalleled might, and it was so dazzling and resplendent that it shook the heavens. Under such slaughter, one old monster at the Emperor realm after another was simply annihilated on the spot, like chickens and dogs. It wasn't that they weren't strong enough, but the sword chi was too domineering. On the other hand, the Emperor weapons and Taoist techniques that attacked Lin Sun were like bubbles before the sword cauldron, and they collapsed and collapsed successively. That scene was like a natural moat that was impeccable and unshakable. In merely an instant, blood lit up like firecrackers in the battlefield as a total of 8 people were annihilated on the spot. Every single one of them was mercilessly slaughtered and died miserably within the vast torrent of sword chi. Not even their corpses remained as they perished. This invincible and all-powerful scene caused the Sky Cluster Sword Emperor and the Sky Split Buddhist Lord to be unable to help but be horrified. From the beginning, they'd never underestimated Lin Sun, who was a peak great emperor. But when the battle really erupted, they realized that their so-called overestimation was actually a huge mistake, and it could only be said that they'd underestimated Lin Sun by far. Slash. At this time, Lin Sun's long hair was flying and his clothes were fluttering. His whole body was surrounded by the dazzling and blazing divine light of the Great Way, and his divine power covered the sky and the sun. He was just like the ruler of the emperors, running amok in the world. Puff, puff. The bright red emperor blood dyed the sky red. Before long, only a few old monsters were left in the battlefield, struggling to hold on. They seemed to have gone crazy and used all their means, but it was still in vain. They were absolutely crushed by Lin Sun. They also tried to escape, but they were horrified to find that the whole world was firmly enveloped and blocked by Lin Sun's power, making them feel a sense of despair that there was nowhere to escape and nowhere to hide. Boom! The sword chi was dense and vast like the sea. Soon, the heaven constellation Sword Emperor, who was at the 8th level of the Emperor realm, was slashed by Lin Sun's sword. His natal sword broke in a harsh explosion and fell to the ground. This Sword Emperor, who used to be one of the 3 Masters of Darkness, had once tried to kill Lin Sun in the Dark World before he became an emperor. At that time, Lin Sun was like an ant in his eyes, and he could completely ignore him. But now, in just a moment, he was killed by Lin Sun on the sword that he was best at. At this time, only Tiandu Buddhist Lord was left in the battlefield. P.S. Welcome to Goldfishes. Currently, there are 45,689 followers, and I'll update when the number of followers exceeds 46,000. Genius 1 second to remember this website's address. Mobile version. Chapter 2394. The sky was falling and the earth was collapsing. Only Tiandu Buddha was left in the field. He looked extremely solemn, but he didn't panic at all. The descendants of the Hidden Land realm, no matter how high their cultivation was, were not afraid of death, so the whole world was afraid of them. But despair was inevitable after all, and Lin Sun didn't show any mercy. Swish! The sword light blazed like a divine ray of light that furiously swept through the sky, and it carried an all-powerful might as it slashed down. Tiandu Buddha put his palms together and chanted the name of Buddha. His face was resolute, and his body was burning with an earth-shaking Taoist fire. Vaguely, it seemed that the 3,000 purgatory emerged, with a Buddha sitting on it, chanting the Sanskrit sutra, which resounded through the world. The terrible power of purification spread, trying to stop the sword. But with the roar, the figure of the Buddha collapsed and disappeared. The sound of Sanskrit was cut off, and the scene of the 3,000 purgatory disappeared like a bubble. Tiandu Buddha raised his head and said bitterly, "With you, Lin Daoyuan, Ksitigarbha is in danger." Puff! His body turned into ashes inch by inch, drifting in the void. Lin Sun waved his sleeves and swept away all the spoils on the field. Then he turned around and left, soon disappearing above the boundless blood sea. The Dark Land was like a secret world, full of ancient and quiet atmosphere, isolated from the outside world. Lin Sun once entered this place, learned some of Master Lu's past from Qing Ying, and got some ancient spiritual tattoo books left by Master Lu. It was here that Lin Sun had the opportunity to enter the dark purgatory to practice. Not only his cultivation was transformed to the extreme, but he also got the Empyrean Spear, the spiritual root of Kunwa Divine Tree, and the sword spirit that had followed Taishien's Sword Emperor for many years. It was also in the Dark Land that Lin Sun entered the nirvana of freedom and started the road to become an emperor. After half an hour, when Lin Sun entered the dark place, he saw broken fences and dilapidated walls everywhere. It was a scene of ruins, and there was still smoke in the air. This made Lin Sun nervous. There was no doubt that there had been a fierce battle in the Dark Land before. Lin Sun spread his spiritual awareness to explore, and soon found the traces left by Big Yellow, and immediately followed. Before long, Lin Sun appeared near the entrance of the dark purgatory. "Young fella, quickly come in." At the spur of a moment, Big Yellow communicated through its conception. Lin Sun narrowed his eyes slightly. He heard a trace of sadness in Big Yellow's voice. He dared not hesitate and flashed into it. The 18th level of the Hell of Darkness. This place was once the place where a strand of sword exalt sky splitters will lay dormant. Now, it was filled with a sorrowful and depressing atmosphere. Divine flames surged. More than 10 tombstones towered on ground. Big Yellow, Qing Ying, and dozens of figures stood in front of the tombstone. When Lin Sun arrived, he saw that the tombstone was obviously new. Some names and glorious deeds were engraved on it. Qing Ying's eyes were in a trance, and her eyes were red. Her enchanting and beautiful white face was filled with sadness and disappointment. The expressions of the other people nearby were also filled with melancholy and sorrow. These guys are all the old people in the Bronze Sparrow Tower. Each of them was a powerful emperor when they were alive. They have been following our master for many years and made great achievements, Big Yellow said in a low voice. But not long ago, in order to resist the foreign enemies who broke into the Dark Land, they all suffered. Lin Sun narrowed his black eyes slightly. Staring at those tombstones, he said, "Were they all done by the Hidden Land Realm and the Divine Sunshine Ancient Sect?" Big Yellow nodded, and his eyes showed deep hatred. This hatred must be washed with 10 times or even 100 times more blood. "Child, you are back." At this time, Qing woke up and saw Lin Sun quietly. She took a deep breath, suppressed her inner sadness, and said, "Before the head of the Bronze Sparrow Tower left, he told me to give this to you if you came back." As she said, she spread out her slender white hand, and a bronze sparrow talisman appeared in her palm, giving off a mysterious and obscure aura. "What is this?" Lin Sun was stunned. After Qing Ying handed the bronze sparrow talisman to Lin Sun, Big Yellow and the other dozens of figures nearby faced Lin Sun in unison and bowed. "Greetings, Tower Master! Greetings, Tower Master! Greetings, Tower Master!" Solemn voices sounded in unison, reverberating in the 18 levels of the dark purgatory. Lin Sun's heart trembled, and he could not help but feel caught off guard. Big Yellow said in a deep voice, "Master set a rule a long time ago. Whoever holds this talisman will be the new master of the Bronze Sparrow Tower. Lin Sun, you are Master's junior brother, and Master left this talisman for you. Accept it." Lin Sun frowned. Senior brother is still in the Kunlun ruins, and his fate is unknown. How can I replace him at this time and take charge of the Bronze Sparrow Tower? Qing Ying took out a jade slip and handed it to Lin Sun. This was left behind by the Bronze Sparrow Tower Master before he went to the Kunlun ruins. Lin Sun opened it and saw the words on the jade slip. "Junior brother, after this battle, I will follow the example of the venerable master and cross the starry sky to the Permethal world. I founded the Bronze Sparrow Tower, and I can't bear to have no successor. I hope junior brother can take over for now. If I can find someone who can inherit the position in the future, I can pass the Bronze Sparrow Talisman to him. Signed, Zhong Xiao." Lin Sun was stunned, and his expression was uncertain. It was as if an invisible responsibility had quietly been placed on his shoulders. Senior brother didn't leave any other instructions? Lin Sun asked. Qing Ying said in a low voice, 2 years ago, the Bronze Sparrow Tower Master came out of closed-door cultivation and suddenly decided to challenge Heavenly Emperor Shi. He thought that the time had come, and he would definitely take advantage of this opportunity to kill Heavenly Emperor Shi. Otherwise, when Heavenly Emperor Shi recovers, the outcome will be unpredictable. Lin Sun frowned. He could not help but wonder if senior brother had not refined the order power of Nirvana. He had too many doubts in his heart, and he had a feeling that second senior brother's decision 2 years ago was hasty and hurried. Unfortunately, Qing Ying and the others did not know. Zhong Xiao was an extremely conceited and arrogant person. After he had made his decision, it was impossible for him to explain it to others. Lin Sun, Big Yellow, suddenly shouted, "You are still hesitating at a time like this. If Master knew your behavior, wouldn't he be very sad?" Lin Sun took a deep breath, glanced at Big Yellow, and then at Qing Ying and the others, and said, "I will accept this Bronze Sparrow decree, but I will not succeed the position of Bronze Sparrow Tower Master now." Big Yellow said anxiously, "Are you afraid? Are you unwilling to meddle in this mess? Because of the decline of Bronze Sparrow Tower? Qing Ying frowned and said, Big Yellow, how can you say that? Young master has just come back and suddenly encountered so many things. How can he make a decision immediately? Lin Sun waved his hand and said, Don't say more, Qing Ying. Big Yellow is confused because of his concern. I understand his feelings. Big Yellow paced anxiously, as if he had nowhere to vent his frustration. It has only been 3 years, and so many things have happened. I can't wait to destroy the Hidden Land Realm now and destroy the divine Sunshine Ancient Sect. At the end of his sentence, he was almost roaring. When he returned this time, he first heard that the Bronze Sparrow Tower Master and Heavenly Emperor Shur had arranged to fight in the Kunlun ruins, and their fates were still unknown. Following that, he heard that the situation in the Dark World had changed, and the 2 giants led by the Hidden Land Realm and the Divine Sunshine Ancient Sect had attacked and invaded the Bronze Sparrow Tower. When he returned to this hidden place, he actually encountered a destructive calamity, causing some of the elders of the Bronze Sparrow Tower to perish. Under such circumstances, Big Yellow's emotions were like a fermenting volcano, ready to erupt at any moment. Of course, Lin Sun could understand. How could he not be depressed, and resentful? Speaking of which, he, the Hidden Land Realm, and the Divine Sunshine Ancient Sect had formed a blood feud a long time ago. Tower Master, I hope you can make a decision as soon as possible. Right now, the forces of our Bronze Sparrow Tower in the Dark World have suffered an extremely severe blow. Almost all the territories and rivers that we controlled in the past have fallen into the hands of the enemy. Someone cried out in grief and indignation. If we don't take action, I'm afraid this Bronze Sparrow Tower will be uprooted. Tower Master, the current situation has reached a critical juncture. We must change it immediately. Otherwise, our Bronze Sparrow Tower will really be finished. Tower Master, I hope you can make a decision as soon as possible. The others spoke one after another. These were all elders of the Bronze Sparrow Tower. In the past, they had guarded different territories of the Dark World and controlled the territory. Their divine might was monstrous, but now they could only hide here. The bitterness in their hearts could be imagined. At this moment, Qing Ying and Big Yellow looked at Lin Sun. Lin Sun was silent for a moment before saying, Qing Ying, help me prepare a piece of information about the Hidden Land Realm and the Divine Sunshine Ancient Sect. The more detailed, the better. Everyone's spirits were lifted. All right, Qing Ying agreed readily. Also, help me sort out the major events that have happened in the past 3 years. Lin Sun's black eyes were deep, and his tone was calm as he made a decision. Big Yellow, follow me in 10 days. The rest of you, wait here for news. The elders of the Bronze Sparrow Tower suddenly became anxious and said one after another, Tower Master, we can also help. Lin Sun refused flatly. The Bronze Sparrow Tower has already suffered too many casualties. We can't let this kind of thing happen again. If you recognize my identity, this matter will be decided in this way. Everyone's expression changed for a while and finally accepted the order. Big Yellow was puzzled. Why wait until 10 days later? Get the information first. Know yourself and know the enemy. Lin Sun paused, his eyes indifferent. Besides, I'm about to break through the realm. As early as in the deity Phoenix realm, Lin Sun had many premonitions of breaking through the realm. It had been more than a month since he returned to the Starry Ancient Road. Now that the war was imminent, he could take advantage of this opportunity to make a breakthrough. Soon, Qing Ying prepared a detailed document for him, which recorded the layout of the Hidden Land Realm and the Divine Sunshine Ancient Sect, their resources and power, as well as a series of detailed information about the places where the sect was based. After Lin Sun read it carefully, he firmly remembered it in his mind. Then, he left the purgatory of darkness and came to the turbulent, unstable blood sea. His clothes fluttered as he looked up at the sky. He stood like this in silence for 3 days. On this day, the sky was oppressive and all was silent. Suddenly, Lin Sun, who was like a clay statue, moved. He casually dusted his clothes and said softly, Today I, Lin Daoyuan, will enter the metaphysic realm. Genius 1 second to remember website. Mobile version. Chapter 2395. The Dao Yuan the Arch had returned to the world of darkness. At the same time when Lin Sun was about to break through the realm, the news resounded over the dark world like a thunder, causing an uproar. No one knew how many strong men were shocked and in an uproar. Who could forget that when the nirvanic freedom heaven appeared in the world and all the mighty figures gathered in the starry sky, only the Dao Yuan Emperor stood out? Who could forget the one and only legendary figure who had become an emperor in the 100,000 years since the ancient times? 3 years ago, countless ancient orthodoxies in the starry sky had been searching for the Dao Yuan Thearcha's whereabouts, some of them for revenge. Some wanted to forcefully seize the fortune on him. However, it was also at that time that the Dao Yuan Emperor vanished without a trace, and no one knew where he'd gone. No one had expected that after 3 years, he would reappear in the dark world. When this news came out, the whole world was paying attention to it. Soon, the bloody massacre on the shore of the unstable Blood Sea spread, making Lin Sun even more famous. 16 emperors from the Hidden Land realm and the divine Sunshine Ancient sect were all killed by the Dao Yuan Emperor alone. Such a piece of news was extremely shocking. Is the Dao Yuan Emperor declaring war on the Hidden Land realm and the divine Sunlight Ancient sect? An uproar broke out. The current dark world seemed to be controlled by the two giants of the divine Sunshine Ancient sect and the Hidden Land realm. As for the Bronze Sparrow Tower, it had long since declined with the disappearance of the master of the Bronze Sparrow Tower. It was on the verge of collapse. Under such circumstances, Lin Sun's killing of the emperors from the Hidden Land realm and the Divine Reflection Ancient sect was seen as a bloody declaration of war. Rumor has it that the Dao Yuan the Arch and Bronze Sparrow Tower's Battle the Arch shall appear together. It's highly likely that they're here to avenge Bronze Sparrow Tower. I see. But isn't the Dao Yuan Emperor worried about being killed by the Hidden Land realm and the Divine Sunlight Ancient sect? You don't know this. Who has the Dao Yuan Emperor been afraid of on this starry sky, ancient path? Don't forget, he was the successor of Minuscule Mountain. He has killed countless experts from the 6 orthodoxies and the 10 major war clans. Over the years, there have been many forces that hated the Dao Yuan Emperor, but in the end, who could do anything to the Dao Yuan Emperor? All kinds of discussions were like boiling tides, resounding in different territories and cities of the dark world. Dao Yuan Emperor. In the past 100,000 years, there was only one person who had reached the pinnacle of the martial monarch realm. Such a legendary existence was going to avenge the Bronze Sparrow Tower. He was going to use a bloody massacre to spread the news to the Hidden Land realm and the divine Sunshine Ancient sect. Who wouldn't pay attention? The Copper Sparrow Tower factions and experts that were still struggling at death's door in various parts of the dark world could not help but become excited when they heard this news. The appearance of the Dao Yuan the Arch and Battle the Arch Shao was like a ray of light piercing through the darkness, giving them a glimmer of hope. Even if the chances were slim, it was still hope. But on time, Emperor Heaven. The Divine Reflection Ancient Sect's sect master Yu Kuan-zi asked the Dao Yuan Emperor to meet at the Blood Dome Mountain. When the news got out, the entire dark world was in an uproar. Countless people were dumbfounded, boiling over because of this, and some even found it hard to believe. For countless years, Yu Kuan-zi, the headmaster of the Hidden Land realm, Void Wind Buddha Emperor, and the master of Bronze Sparrow Tower, were known as the 3 rulers of the darkness. No one expected that not long after the Dao Yuan the Arch appeared, a heavyweight figure like Yu Kuan-zi would personally request to meet the Dao Yuan the Arch. Everyone realized that the Hidden Land realm and the Divine Sunlight Ancient sect were about to make a move. The Divine Sunlight Ancient sect was unfathomable. The Hidden Land realm was even more frightening. What was most frightening was that these 2 ancient orthodoxies were inextricably linked to Heavenly Emperor Shur, who controlled the forbidden power of order. Many years ago, when Emperor Shur Tiandi came to the starry sky ancient path, these 2 sects had been following his lead. How could the Dao Yuan the Arch and Battle the Arch Shao possibly contend against these two colossi? Over the past 2 years, the forces of Copper Sparrow Pavilion have already suffered a devastating blow, and they're destined to be of no help. Although Dao Yuan Emperor is an absolute emperor, the time he has been an emperor is too short. This time, it is very likely that he will encounter great trouble. Many people analyzed the situation calmly and came to this conclusion. The divine sunlight, ancient sex Emperor Yu Kuan-zi has spoken. He's determined to take down Emperor Dao Yuan. The best thing for Dao Yuan Emperor to do now is to leave the world of darkness immediately. With his terrifying foundation as a peak great emperor, who in this world can stop him if he wants to escape? As long as he hibernates for 100 or 1,000 years, he might be able to make a comeback in the future. All kinds of discussions and analyses emerged. People realized that although Emperor Dao Yuan was like a legend, he didn't have much chance of winning against the two giants. But no matter what, as the news fermented and spread, countless eyes gathered from all over the world and looked at the Blood Dome Mountain. This was the place where Emperor Yu Kuan-zi was going to meet Emperor Dao Yuan. Would Emperor Dao Yuan dare to keep the appointment after hearing the news? Lin Sun was still unaware of all this. He was in the middle of a tribulation. Boom! In the sky above the indefinite blood sea, black clouds that were like ink covered the sky and roiled ceaselessly while rumbling like thunder resounded. A world condensed from tribulation lightning emerged. The mountains and rivers within it were magnificent and boundless. There were volcanoes erupting with tribulation, lightning, and torrents of lightning that swept through the heavens and the earth. Countless lightning spirits formed from plants whistled through the heavens and the earth, sprinkling down magnificent and dazzling arcs of lightning. The wind and clouds that raged in the sky were entwined with tribulation lightning. This was the mystic void world tribulation, the largest barrier in the fourth stage of the Emperor realm. It was a world of lightning formed from the Emperor tribulation. Any random, flickering arc of lightning could annihilate ordinary Emperor realm existences. It was terrifying to the extreme. Rumble. In the world of lightning, a stalwart figure charged forward. His body was like a great abyss that swallowed the heavens and the earth as he moved horizontally. The roiling thunderstorm poured down like divine chains of order, but they were all shattered by his fists, causing a myriad of dazzling lightning to rain down. From afar, it was like a god was charging forward and shaking the sky of lightning. This figure was Lin Sun. His eyes were deep like cold lightning, and his cultivation was like a chaotic furnace that rumbled and released to the extreme. With a raise of his hand, he could shatter a mountain of tribulation lightning and split open a lightning storm. He seemed to be extremely powerful as he charged forward wantonly, and the aura he emanated was like an abyss that seized all creation. In just 10 minutes, the world formed from tribulation, lightning showed a scene of desolation that was riddled with holes. However, along with a series of heart-palpitating rumbles, palaces and pavilions formed from tribulation, lightning rose from the ground one after another. Those buildings were all covered in tribulation flames, and all kinds of terrifying treasures rushed out, including spears, bronze bells, seals, flying swords, horsetail whisks, treasured bottles. Every one of them flickered with a strange aura of tribulation, and they were unimaginably powerful. A casual attack was even comparable to the power of the 6th level of the Emperor realm. If it was an ordinary practitioner in the 3rd level of the Emperor realm who was undergoing tribulation lightning, he would have been blasted into pieces and his soul destroyed. Lin Sun's incomparably powerful attack was immediately blocked, and he suffered the most fatal blow. In a flash, his skin and flesh were torn, and his body was stained with blood. His muscles and bones were all severely injured, and he was in a precarious situation. This was the tribulation of the mystic realm, an unprecedented tribulation for peerless emperors. But Lin Sun didn't seem to feel it. His eyes were burning with fighting spirit, firm and calm as ever. Kill, kill, kill. His momentum was like a demon. Although he was seriously injured, it didn't reduce his power. On the contrary, he became more and more courageous as he fought, and his momentum shook the stars around him. In Lin Sun's life, he rose in the Xiao Empire when he was young. Then he ran amok in the ancient wilderness and fought in the starry sky. Until now, he had passed countless tribulations, such as some strange and unparalleled tribulations. No one knew better than him what nirvana in destruction and transformation between life and death meant. So, even though he'd encountered unfathomable danger and suffered heavy injuries when he broke through the tribulation this time, his state of mind hadn't been shaken or affected at all. Kill. Between heaven and earth, Lin Sun's roar was like thunder, and his long hair was flying like an inextinguishable flame. He broke through fatal tribulations again and fought bloody battles. On the other hand, amidst this tribulation and battle, his cultivation, essence, energy, and spirit were rising steadily, rising explosively, and transforming. After entering the threshold of the Emperor realm, each level was several times more difficult than before, and more dangerous and difficult than before. But at the same time, after the breakthrough, his combat power would also be greatly improved, resulting in earth-shaking transformation. It had been less than 10 years since Lin Sun became an emperor at the peak of Nirvana realm. He had broken through the realms one after another, and now he was about to overcome the heaven's retribution of the fourth level of the Emperor realm. Such a speed of advancement was unprecedented and shocking. After a full day, Lin Sun's breath shook violently, and he suddenly released all the potential of his body to deduce the mystery of the great way furnace scripture. Boom! In the world of thunder retribution, there seemed to be a big abyss emerging, swallowing the torrents in all directions with the momentum of crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. Mountains and rivers, the earth, the void, the light rain, the tribulation thunder, everything was swallowed up by the big abyss. Later, the big abyss became bigger and bigger, swallowing the sky. Above the indefinite blood sea, Big Yellow, Qing Ing, and other old monsters had been waiting for a long time. At this time, they were all frightened and shocked. No matter how long they had lived and what kind of cultivation they had, it was the first time for them to see the Xian realm tribulation of Juyin. The destructive aura of the calamity caused them to feel suffocated and oppressed, and it caused their hairs to stand on end while they were unable to control themselves. He was horrible. If they were in Lin Sun's position, they didn't know whether they could hold on until now. The tribulation is getting more and more terrible. I don't know how the boy is now. Big Yellow was a little worried. It had been a day, but the tribulation was not over. Just at this time, boom, the world was shaking, and the sea was rolling. An incredible scene happened in the vision of Big Yellow, Qing Ying, and the others. The world formed by the Xian realm tribulation suddenly produced an earth-shaking explosion and was torn, crushed, and swallowed by a terrifying big abyss that emerged. The real big abyss swallowed the sky. P.S. Happy New Year. Goldfish will try to keep updating regularly during the holiday. Chapter 2396. The lightning tribulation that filled the sky was devoured by the abyss. From a distance, it looked like a large part of the sky had been devoured. It was a ghastly sight. Under the shocked gazes of Big Yellow and Qing Ying, the big abyss that swallowed all the thunder tribulations roared and finally turned into Lin Sun's figure. He was standing in the void. His pores were emitting dazzling electric lights. His aura was like a rainbow piercing through the sky, covering the entire area. He was like a supreme god, overlooking the world. Tongxian Realm. A few elders from Copper Sparrow Hall sighed with emotion. This type of incomparable great tribulation, just how terrifying was it? It was enough to make the entire world tremble. But now it was engulfed by the abyss transformed by Lin Sun. He's no ordinary fourth-level emperor. Big Yellow lamented. The fourth level of the Emperor realm was known as the Profound Understanding realm. At this level, one's natal imperial world would be as profound as the Profound Understanding realm, and would be able to manifest all kinds of mysterious world origin energies. But Lin Sun's fourth-level Emperor realm wasn't something an ordinary cultivator could compare to. Big Yellow couldn't help but suspect that Lin Sun might have more power to fight against Emperor Ancestor Realm after breaking through the realm. Rumble. The sound of thunder gradually faded away, and the Taoist light on Lin Sun's body also converged. As if he'd been washed clean of lead, he became ethereal and quiet. His figure floated down and began to meditate, consolidating the brand-new power that he had just obtained. The heavenly tribulation this time had transformed his strength once again, and the power he could control was also incomparable to before. The most obvious change was that his imperial life world contained a magnificent, mysterious light, like the original energy of the world, which made the whole world glow with a kind of vitality. Besides that, his soul, will, and the strength of his body had improved a step further. The tendons, bones, apertures, and flesh of his body could be said to be flawless, crystalline, translucent, and seething with the aura of the Tao. It was extremely miraculous. 5 days later, only then did Lin Sun wake up from his meditation. When he opened and closed his eyes, there was a mysterious Taoist light, like the beginning of heaven and earth. Big Yellow and Qing Ying, who had been waiting nearby for a long time, all came forward and told Lin Sun the news about Yu Kuan-Zi's appointment. Blood Dome Mountain? Lin Sun frowned. What is this place? Qing Ying replied. A divine mountain 90,000 miles away from the divine illuminating sect's ancestral grounds, the site of the second Oblivion Tribulation. According to what she said, Blood Sky Mountain had been tainted with the energy of the tribulation of Oblivion, and it had become extremely strange during these countless years. The mountain was covered in a dense fog all year round that couldn't be dispelled. This mountain was like a forbidden area. Those below the Emperor Realm were unable to ascend this mountain. Even if an Emperor Realm cultivator entered the mountain, it would be difficult for them to destroy even a single blade of grass or tree. Even sovereign armaments would not be able to shake the mountain in the slightest. Apart from that, the mountain was shrouded in mist. Even the will and consciousness of the monarch ancestor would be limited to a range of 1,000 feet. For countless years, many emperors had tried to take this mountain away and refine it, but all of them had failed without exception. Qing Ying believed that Yu Kuan-Zi, the headmaster of Divine Mirror Ancient Sect, was definitely up to no good by choosing to meet Lin Sun at Blood Dome Mountain. Because this mountain was shrouded in fog, divine sense was limited. No matter how many ambushes were hidden, no one would know. After understanding this, Lin Sun smiled and said, "An appointment, not a battle. Is this old thing planning to talk to me first?" Big Yellow said, "Even a fool knows this is a trap. Do you really plan to go?" "Why not? The opponent has set up such a large formation. They must have mobilized the forces that they think they can kill me. But at the same time, this is also a good time for us to eliminate them. We don't have to travel long distances to find the enemy. We can decide the outcome in one battle." Lin Sun said, "What's more now, it's time to make the Divine Mirror Ancient Sect and the Hidden Land Realm pay some price." At this time, whether it was cultivation or the trump cards in his hands, he was already fearless in this dark world. "Then I'll go with you," Big Yellow said. Lin Sun shook his head. "Big Yellow, take Little Five to the Divine Mirror Ancestral Mountain now and seal this place with the Fallen Tao formation." In an instant, the expressions of Big Yellow and Qing Ying became incomparably interesting. The Divine Mirror Ancestral Mountain was where the old nest of the Divine Mirror Ancient Sect was. Lin Sun's arrangement was obviously to take advantage of this opportunity to play a big game. "Okay." Big Yellow agreed without hesitation. She was by Lin Sun's side, so Big Yellow was not worried that Lin Sun would encounter much trouble. On the contrary, Big Yellow was excited about Lin Sun's arrangement and rubbed his palms. "Child, is this trip too risky?" Qing Ying was a little worried. Lin Sun smiled and shook his head. "Miss, and everyone present can just wait here for news." Whether it was for the Bronze Sparrow Tower or for his own revenge, Lin Sun had waited for many years. The Bloody Vault Mountain was filled with mist, steaming and rolling all year round. For countless years, countless powerful figures had tried to disperse the mist on the mountain, but without exception, they all ended in failure. At the peak of the mountain, led by Yu Kuan-zi of the divine, mirror ancient sect, 8 figures stood on the mountain. Even the mist could not hide the divine brilliance released from their bodies. There were men and women, some surrounded by thunder, some with ethereal light, some with monstrous majesty, and some with fire around their bodies. Each of their momentum was earth-shattering, and the majesty of the emperor made people suffocate, especially the leader, Yu Kuan-zi. His sideburns were white, and he wore a Taoist robe. His appearance was simple and unsophisticated, and he attracted everyone's attention. He simply stood there, but the light around him seemed to cover everyone else. This was the might of the divine, mirror ancient sect's leader. His cultivation had reached the peak of the 8th level of the emperor realm, and he only needed an opportunity to step into the 9th level and transform into the ancestral state. Sect Master Yu Kuan-zi, Monarch Feng Yun, Grand Monarch Tai Yin, Battle of Monarch, 9 treasures. The divine, illuminating ancient sect actually sent out 7 monarch realm elders to accompany Yu Kuan-zi. They are all supreme overlords, which shows how much importance they place on the Dao Yuan monarch. At the foot of the mountain, someone sighed. Countless people looked up, their emotions fluctuating. The 8 existences on the mountain peak could be said to be the most authoritative force in the dark world. Other than the hidden land realm, they could flatten everything. I just don't know how much power this Blood Sky Mountain is hiding in the dark. If it's just to deal with the Dao Yuan Emperor alone, this power is more than enough. But if the Dao Yuan Emperor and some elders from the Bronze Sparrow Tower come together, then it's hard to say. Yu Kuan-zi dared to meet here. He must have full confidence and preparation. The only worry now is whether the Dao Yuan Emperor dares to come. In the area near the Bloody Vault Mountain, there were all kinds of discussions. Ever since the news of Yu Kuan-zi meeting Lin Sun spread, the Bloody Vault Mountain had become the focus of the world's attention. Now in this area, countless experts had already gathered, all waiting and watching. However, as time passed, Lin Sun did not show up, causing many people to suspect that he had already heard of the news and did not have the guts to come. After all, such an appointment could easily turn into a monstrous calamity. If most people were in Lin Sun's position, they would probably not come. But right at this moment, a wave of rumbling sounds of wind and thunder suddenly resounded out from extremely far away in the sky. A divine ray of light that was like a waterfall tore through the sky and whistled towards Blood Sky Mountain with a speed so swift that it shocked the world. Whoosh! As soon as the divine rainbow arrived in front of the Bloody Vault Mountain, it turned straight and turned into a tall and handsome figure. His moon-white clothes fluttered, ethereal like an immortal. Dao Yuan Emperor! He really has the guts to come. There was a sudden uproar in the field. Countless eyes looked at the figure standing in the void, some curious, some amazed. Only you? On the top of the mountain, Yu Kuan-zi and other big shots of the divine Sunshine Ancient Sect also noticed Lin Sun at the first moment, but they couldn't help but be a little surprised. Because Lin Sun came alone. I alone is enough. Lin Sun looked up at the Bloody Vault Mountain with an indifferent expression. His lonely figure was reflected in everyone's eyes, adding a kind of unparalleled elegance. Coming to the meeting alone, just this kind of courage alone could shock the world and make people tremble. Compared with Yu Kuan-zi's action this time, just the strength shown on the surface, Lin Sun came alone. His courage was even more extraordinary. Humph, you're quite courageous. Do you dare to come to the top of the mountain for a chat? A dignified man surrounded by thunder said in a deep voice, his voice like thunder, rolling in the sky and earth. Why not? Lin Sun smiled and stepped into the sky, his clothes fluttering as he went up. The Bloody Vault Mountain was tens of thousands of meters high, steep and majestic, piercing straight into the sky. It was covered with a strange taboo power, causing mist to surround it and divine sense to be blocked. It was full of mystery. No one knew if there were other ambushes and murderous tribulations hidden in the dark. But Lin Sun seemed to be unaware of it. His figure floated up to the top of the mountain. That casual and calm attitude made countless people admire him. Yu Kuan-zi and the others couldn't help but frown. It was the first time for most of them to see this legendary Dao Yuan emperor. Just from the courage Lin Sun showed at this time, it made them realize that this boy was destined to be difficult to deal with. The successor of Mount Hart is fighting for the Bronze Sparrow Tower. Does Dao Yuan Emperor think that no one in the dark world can suppress you? A beautiful woman spoke. She was dressed in a purple dress, pure as ice and jade, and her delicate body was surrounded by crimson light that was like divine chains, dazzling and frightening. Lin Sun had already arrived at the top of the mountain and stood at a height of 3,000 meters. He glanced at Yu Kuan-zi and the others and said indifferently, "There may be people in this world who can suppress me, but it's absolutely not you." "Ha, what big words!" Someone snorted. "Lin Dao Yuan, you shouldn't have come alone. We didn't set up such a formation to wait for you." Someone said coldly. At this moment, the will and aura of Yu Kuan-zi and the other 8 great figures were almost all locked on Lin Sun, and their power was extremely oppressive. If it was an ordinary emperor, they would have been scared long ago. Lin Sun seemed to be unaware of it and said, "Cut the crap. Since it's an appointment, tell me what you want to do. I don't have time to talk nonsense with you." That calm and almost disdainful attitude made the great figures of the divine, sunshine, ancient sect frown, and their eyes flickered with a terrifying luster. "I wish everyone a happy holiday. Also, the second night will be slightly later." Chapter 2397. Yu Kuan-zi smiled disapprovingly and said, "Lin Dao Yuan, this meeting is to give you 2 choices. Either you join my divine image ancient sect and plant a restriction on your soul, never betraying me, or die." When Yu Kuan-zi said the last word, his eyes were calm and indifferent, like a god deciding the life and death of a mortal. "You or the entire divine image ancient sect are not qualified." Lin Sun smiled. "Stubborn." Yu Kuan-zi grunted lightly, and his tone remained tranquil from beginning to end. "Everyone in the world thinks that this blood sky mountain has been tainted with the energy of the calamity of oblivion, causing it to become impregnable. But I've searched through ancient books and cultivated for almost 10,000 years on the peak of this mountain. Yet I know that it's an invincible weapon that's branded with the profundities of order. Today, perhaps it's time for this weapon to taste the blood of great Emperor Juyin." As he spoke, Yu Kuan-zi looked at Lin Sun like lightning. Whoosh! 2 bolts of lightning seemed to strike in the void. The void was cut open by his gaze, making a heart-palpitating explosion. "I'll give you one last chance. Which path will you choose?" Yu Kuan-zi's long hair fluttered, the lightning in his eyes becoming more and more intense. An earth-shattering aura surged from his body, filling up the heavens and the earth. Even the air on the peak of the bloody sky mountain froze. The surrounding mist couldn't flow at all. Yu Kuan-zi stood there. The entire bloody sky mountain was like his domain. All power was under his control. If other emperors were here, they would be shocked to find that they couldn't guide the power of heaven and earth at all, unable to sense the power of Tao, as if they were beaten down from the sky. This was the strange energy possessed by the blood sky mountain itself, branded with the profundities of order. For countless years, not a single emperor realm cultivator had been able to shake a single blade of grass or tree on this mountain. And it was precisely because of the profundities of order branded on this blood sky mountain that it was involved in the second tribulation of oblivion. "Headmaster, it's just to deal with Lin Dao Yuan. Why use the power of the bloody sky mountain?" Someone looked disdainful. The other old monsters looked at Lin Sun as if he was a dead man. The divine image ancient sect had planned this meeting for a long time, and it wasn't just for Lin Sun, but for the remaining elders of the Bronze Sparrow Tower. The only thing that surprised them was that only Lin Sun came to keep the appointment. After all, he is a peak great emperor. Not long ago, he killed more than 10 Emperor Realm experts by himself at the Indefinite Blood Sea. Among them were 8-stage Emperor Realm existences like Tian Cluster, Sword Emperor, and Tian, Du Buddhist Lord. We can't underestimate him. Yu Kuan-zi said indifferently. Lin Daoyuan, it's time for you to make a decision. My decision is very simple. You all have to die. Lin Sun's eyes were deep and calm. Many people roared with laughter. What kind of time is it now? Yet this kid still refuses to realize his errors. Is this any different from courting death? Yu Kuan-zi also smiled and said, Who is willing to take action and take this child's head? The power around him roared, like a god in charge of life and death. The power of Bloody Sky Mountain was under his control, like a cage of Tao, imprisoning Lin Sun. Allow me. Immediately, a mighty man surrounded by the laws of lightning charged out. The Battle Emperor of the Nine Treasures was a 7th-level Emperor Realm cultivator. He had dominated the Dark World for many years and had killed countless people. Boom! As he charged out, a dazzling thunder saber slashed out furiously, wanting to split Lin Sun in half. The other old monsters of the Divine Sunlight Ancient Sect felt it was a pity that they were one step ahead of him. Otherwise, the title of killing Emperor Daoyuan would belong to them. But a scene that stunned all of them appeared. A clear and melodious sword hum resounded, and the power of Bloody Sky Mountain that was originally imprisoning Lin Sun's body exploded like a broken shackle. At the same time, a sword light flashed in the sky. Clang! The dazzling thunder saber exploded, and a rain of light splashed everywhere. The Battle Emperor of the Nine Treasures, who was charging over, was cut in half by the sword Qi and exploded a few hundred feet away from Lin Sun. His bloody body was crushed and evaporated by the vast sword Qi. Is that all you've got? Lin Sun sneered. The scene was restless. Yu Kuan-zi's expression changed, and the other old monsters' hearts trembled. They were completely caught off guard, and their expressions all changed. How is this possible? No one expected Lin Sun to break free from the power of Bloody Sky Mountain so easily. It was very unbelievable. They didn't know that if Lin Sun faced such power before he refined the sword cauldron, he would also be unable to resist. But now, even if Shi Tiandi, who controlled the Forbidden Order, came, he wouldn't be able to use the Forbidden Order to suppress Lin Sun. The reason was that Lin Sun's natal Emperor weapon contained the Order Phoenix Flame that could contend against any power of order. However, Yu Kuan-zi was a headmaster after all, and he didn't panic at all. He shouted softly, Condense! Boom! Bloody Sky Mountain radiated a terrifying fluctuation of order. It was strange and boundless, and like a vast torrent, it enveloped Lin Sun's body and suppressed him. Obviously, Yu Kuan-zi still didn't believe that Lin Sun could contend against the power of order of Bloody Sky Mountain. But Lin Sun's expression didn't change, and he slashed in the air. Break! The sword cauldron rumbled, and the Taoist's sword shot out. The power of Bloody Sky Mountain was directly split open in front of Lin Sun. The entire mountain peak suddenly rumbled with thunder, and a strange scene appeared in front of everyone. With Lin Sun as the center, a white line appeared, spanning tens of thousands of feet. And on both sides of the white line, the visible tide of power was roaring like a waterfall, crazily rushing towards the center. Yu Kuan-zi's expression finally changed completely. Lin Sun's sword made him no longer dare to hope for a fluke. He realized that the power of Bloody Sky Mountain, which he regarded as his trump card, was completely useless. Let's attack together. Even at this moment, Yu Kuan-zi was still extremely calm, and he shouted, Don't hold back. Kill this fiend with all your might. After saying that, Yu Kuan-zi waved his big sleeve. Whoosh! A small sword that was green in color, simple and boundless, flew out from his sleeve. Once this small sword reached the sky, it instantly turned into a monstrous sword light. This bright green sword light rose from the top of Yu Kuan-zi's head, but it stretched across the entire mountain peak. It was nearly 3,000 feet long, like the heavenly sword of an ancient god. With a sword in hand, Yu Kuan-zi's temperament immediately changed. He was like an ancient well, without a trace of impatience. He looked down at Lin Sun as if he was looking at an ant. At the same time, The other 6 old monsters nearby all attacked with full force, or took out their trump cards, or displayed their most proud, unique skills. Boom! On the peak of Bloody Sky Mountain, the mighty Emperor's power swept through the 9 heavens and 10 earths. Fight! There was no fear in Lin Sun's eyes. He took a step forward, and the sword cauldron roared and soared. The void was boiling, and the primordial chi was surging. Lin Sun's whole body was shrouded in bright light, like a god descending to the world. Swish! Yu Kuan-Zi's nearly 3,000 feet long sword light slashed down from the sky, pointing directly at Lin Sun. Before the sword chi arrived, there was frost between heaven and earth. All things withered, and the great Tao collapsed. The spectators in the distance were all horrified. Just by this sword, it could be seen how terrifying Yu Kuan-Zi's power was. His sword chi was so mighty that even those in the same realm didn't dare to say that they could take this sword head-on. But Lin Sun didn't care at all. From inside to outside, he bloomed bright light, and with a move of his mind, the Taoist sword shot out and slashed the 3,000 feet long sword light. Boom! The sound of a great bell reverberated between heaven and earth. The mighty strength swept through the entire mountain peak, bursting into a cloud of white gas. A shocking scene appeared. The 3,000 feet long sword chi, under Lin Sun's sword, actually exploded inch by inch, like firecrackers exploding. In the end, even the vast and ancient flying sword itself seemed to be unable to bear it and let out a wail. Bang! The flying sword collapsed and flew out. With a puff, Yu Kuan-Zi was implicated. He coughed up blood, and his pupils suddenly shrank. Boom! Meanwhile, the attacks of the other great figures had arrived. However, as the sword cauldron rumbled and revolved, it faintly revealed an eternal and supreme imposing aura that could crush the universe. A wave of explosions resounded as the numerous imperial artifacts that assaulted Shi were blasted into dispersal, and the Tao techniques that surged like tidewater vanished like bubbles. The sword cauldron was like the sky, unshakable. The spectators in the distance of the Blood Dome Mountain were all shocked, and even suspected that they were dreaming. In an instant, he injured Yu Kuan-Zi of the Divine Reflection Ancient Sect, and withstood all the attacks of the other 6 old monsters. How could the combat power of the Dao Yuan Emperor be so terrifying? So this is all you've got. Lin Sun's voice was filled with undisguised disdain. As he spoke, his figure suddenly turned illusory, and the 5 great Taoist bodies appeared. Today, I, Lin, will settle the blood feud at the peak of the Blood Dome Mountain. Boom! His long hair fluttered, and his figure was like the ancient sky. He launched an extreme attack, and the 5 great clones rushed towards different opponents. The expressions of Yu Kuan-Zi and the others changed again. They did not dare to hesitate, and attacked with all their strength. A great battle broke out, and the Emperor's power was like a tide, breaking the sky and stirring up the wind and clouds. This place seemed to have fallen into a great disaster and great destruction. However, even though Yu Kuan-Zi and the other 6 old monsters of the Emperor realm fought with all their strength, they still seemed weak in front of Lin Sun. 3 finger flicks. Bang! The sword cauldron swept up and smashed the body of a 6th-level Emperor realm woman into pieces. She was drowned in the torrent of Taoist light, and finally turned into ashes and dissipated. 7 finger flicks. The sword swept across, destroying the siege of 3 Emperor weapons, and killed an old man of the 7th-level Emperor realm who could not dodge in time. Blood spurted into the sky. 10 finger flicks. The joint attack of the 5 great Taoist bodies killed an existence of the 8th-level Emperor realm. For a moment, miserable cries shook the sky, blood splattered, and Taoist light wreaked havoc. The peak of the Blood Dome Mountain was like a purgatory. Emperors fell like rain. Lin Sun galloped among them, and his killing intent was unstoppable. Even though he was only at the peak of the 4th-level Emperor realm, he killed those old monsters like they were chickens. His might was too fierce and overbearing, and his sword cauldron was unstoppable. It was like a heavenly moat was laid out horizontally, and it was completely invulnerable. 19 finger flicks later, only Yu Kuan Zi was left, and the other 7 emperors were killed on the spot. It was not that they did not dodge, but the series of attacks was too fast, too ferocious, and it was like an extremely fierce massacre. What emperor weapon, what Dao art, what life-saving methods, they were all torn apart like paper, destroyed and crushed. P.S. I will accompany my wife to celebrate the new year, and I wish everyone a happy new year in advance. Yes, I will update tomorrow. Chapter 2398. At the foot of the Blood Vault Mountain, the crowd trembled in fear. Previously, Yu Kuan-zi, the sect master of the Divine Sunlight sect, had brought a group of Emperor Realm antiques to guard the peak of the Blood Vault Mountain. That lineup made most people believe that if Emperor Dao Yuan dared to come, he would be destroyed. They even suspected that Emperor Dao Yuan wouldn't dare to come. But now, not only did Emperor Dao Yuan come, but he also came alone. He broke the power of the Blood Vault Mountain, killed a group of Emperor Realm monsters, and was invincible. This completely subverted everyone's understanding. Yu Kuan-zi, at this time, why don't you call out those helpers? On the mountain peak, only Yu Kuan-zi was left. Lin Sun stepped forward, his eyes cold and frightening, his aura suppressing the sky. Yu Kuan-zi took a deep breath. As you wish. Boom. In an instant, from different areas of the Blood Vault Mountain, terrifying figures rushed out one after another, whistling towards the mountain peak. It was a group of monks in black, young and old. All of them released the terrifying aura that belonged to the Emperor Realm. Especially the old monk. Half of his body was withered and decayed. The other half was full of vitality, showing a strange power that fluctuated between life and death. This was an old antique from the Hidden Land realm with a frighteningly high status, the Bitter Emperor Ancestor. Beside the Bitter Emperor Ancestor, there were a group of Buddhist emperors from the Hidden Land realm. There were a total of 9 people, and each of them had immeasurable power in the dark world. Seeing this, Lin Sun stopped attacking. His eyes were deep, and his expression was as usual. When he arrived at the Blood Vault Mountain, he sensed that there were other powerful auras lying dormant here in addition to Yu Kuan-zi's group. Therefore, when the Bitter Emperor Ancestors group appeared, Lin Sun wasn't surprised. The Hidden Land realm also sent people to ambush here. In the area near the foot of the mountain, there was a burst of exclamations. Countless people were shocked by this sudden scene and couldn't believe it. If it was just to deal with the Dao Yuan Emperor, of course, they wouldn't have mobilized such a large force. According to my speculation, the Divine Sunlight Ancient Sect and the 2 giants of the Hidden Land realm should have already joined forces to completely destroy the Dao Yuan Emperor and the remaining forces of the Bronze Sparrow Tower. However, no one expected the Dao Yuan Emperor to come alone. That should be the case. All sorts of discussions resounded like a frying pan. At the peak of Blood Sky Mountain, after Bitter Life Monarch Ancestor and the others appeared, Yu Kuan-zi's expression was unsightly, and there was even a trace of gloominess that could not be erased. According to the agreement between the Shengzhou Ancient Sect and the Hidden Land Realm, the Shengzhou Ancient Sect would be the leader of the operation to kill Lin Sun. But now, with the divine illuminating Ancient Sect strength, Yu Kuan-zi was the only one left, and his life was in mortal danger. How could Yu Kuan-zi not feel humiliated? In particular, he had to ask for help from the people of the Hidden Land realm at this time. This made him feel even more ashamed and ashamed. Emperor Ancestor Bitter Life glanced at Yu Kuan-zi and smiled. Fellow Taoist Yu Kuan-zi, you should have released the restriction on this mountain long ago and let us come to help. But now it's not too late. Yu Kuan-zi snorted coldly in silence, and he felt even more displeased in his heart. In this Blood Sky Mountain battle, his greatest reliance was to be able to control the mysteries of Blood Sky Mountain's order. With this power, he even dared to not put Emperor Ancestor Bitter Life in his eyes. But now, it had long been proved that the power of this Blood Sky Mountain was useless to Lin Sun. It's indeed not too late. Besides you, is there anyone else? Lin Sun spoke casually, without any trace of fear. Emperor Ancestor Bitter Life was startled. He pointed at Lin Sun and scolded with a smile. Haha. Little bastard, don't worry. I'm going to save you now. Boom. Before his voice died away, a purple gold alms bowl rose into the air, sprinkling hundreds of millions of strange black Buddha's light towards Lin's son. 10,000 Calamity Bowl. It was the life treasure of Emperor Ancestor Bitterlife. It was said that the power of misfortune he collected in his life to kill evil spirits and overcome misfortune were all smelted into this life treasure. Not to mention ordinary emperors. Even emperors of the same generation would fall into the purgatory of misfortune if they were covered by this alms bowl. They could neither live nor die, and they would be eroded and tortured by misfortune forever. It was the most terrible thing. Emperor Ancestor Bitterlife's attack made everyone feel refreshed. Lin Sun's domineering attitude before made them, who were below the Emperor Ancestor Bitterlife, fear in their hearts. It could be said that Emperor Ancestor Bitterlife was their biggest reliance now. This old thing is really ruthless. He used his trump card as soon as he attacked. Obviously, he doesn't intend to give Lin Daoyuan a chance to survive. Yu Kuan-Zi's eyes flickered. Originally, the opportunity to kill Lin Sun should belong to their divine image ancient sect, but now, Yu Kuan-Zi was reduced to a spectator. If what happened today was spread out, their divine image ancient sect's reputation and power would be shamed. And at this incomparably dangerous juncture, bang! A dreamy figure appeared quietly. With a wave of her hand, the 10,000 Calamity Alms Bowl, which was so terrifying that it made any emperor feel despair, flew out with a buzz as if it was hit by a heavy blow. Emperor Ancestor Bitterlife's pupils suddenly shrank. At the same time, Yu Kuan-Zi and the other big shots of the Hidden Land realm were shocked. Their faces changed dramatically, and they all looked at the graceful figure who appeared out of nowhere. This person was naturally she. This old bastard is eager to die. Senior, I can only leave him to you. Lin Sun said casually. She nodded. His figure flashed, and a rain of light sprinkled down like a dream. They interweaved into a light shadow that seemed to be in order, and they attacked Emperor Ancestor Bitterlife. Suppress! Emperor Ancestor Bitterlife shouted. Divine light surged on his body, condensing into two colors, black and white. At this moment, his Emperor Ancestor power was released unprecedentedly. The sky shook violently and became chaotic. The 10,000 Calamity Alms Bowl glowed, and a strange purgatory scene appeared, blocking in front of him. But as she pressed his palm down, bang! The purgatory scene exploded like a rag. The 10,000 Calamity Alms Bowl was shaken to the point of letting out an ear-piercing wail. With a rumble, it crashed into the void and shot out. At the same time, Emperor Ancestor Bitterlife coughed up blood. Such a scene made Yu Kuan-Zi and the others change their expressions. They were extremely shocked. Who would have thought that Emperor Ancestor Bitterlife, whom they regarded as their greatest support, was in a disadvantageous position at the start of the battle? Who was that woman? Swish! Before they could figure it out, Lin Sun had already made his move. The sword cauldron glowed, rumbled, and pressed down on the void. A Taoist sword dragged a dazzling divine rainbow as it slashed out. Attack together! Yu Kuan-Zi shouted. There was no need for him to remind them. Those Emperor Realm figures of the Hidden Land realm reacted immediately. Boom! Some of them were majestic like Vajra. Some were like Skanda, subduing demons. Some were like Buddha, descending to the world. And some were like Bodhisattvas. All kinds of emperor weapons flowing with black Buddha light whistled up. There were rosary beads, horsetail whisks, green lamps, ancient scrolls, lotus seeds, rulers, wooden fish. There were all kinds of emperor weapons flowing with black Buddha light. At the same time, there was also a tide of Dharma arts rising into the sky. For a time, the peak of Shueqiong Mountain was drowned, and the sky and earth changed color. This kind of siege was undoubtedly extremely terrifying. It could make ghosts and gods fear and make all living beings despair. But what kind of person was Lin Sun now? He fought in the true dragon realm and the immortal phoenix realm, killing countless Emperor Realm figures. As powerful as Emperor Ancestor Bitterlife, he also shed blood under his hands, let alone a group of characters who were far inferior to Emperor Ancestor Bitterlife. Then, the sword roared like thunder, and the Taoist sword slashed horizontally, showing a momentum to crush the whole field. It smashed Emperor weapons, destroyed Taoist arts, and rushed unstoppably. In front of Lin Sun, the sword cauldron flowed with dazzling divine brilliance. The 5 great clones flickered and moved, rushing into the battlefield with Lin Sun. In an instant, the invincible momentum reappeared on the battlefield. Puff! Puff! In an instant, 2 7th-level Emperor Realm figures from the Hidden Land Realm were killed. One was beheaded by the Taoist sword, and his body and soul were crushed. The other was swept by Lin Sun's fist and was torn into pieces, exploding in the void, and blood rained down. And Lin Sun's offensive momentum was getting stronger and stronger, as if it could destroy everything. He showed his fierce and unparalleled style, and the pressure released by his every move suppressed the opponent to the point of collapse. Not to mention besieging and suppressing. Even if they fought against Lin Sun head-on, they couldn't resist a single move. Boom! Blood splattered, thunder surged, and the peak of Shueqiong Mountain showed a violent, turbulent, and chaotic doomsday scene. The powerhouses watching from afar, who had never seen such a scene of bloody words and Emperor falling like rain, were shocked to the point that their scalps were numb and their minds were lost. That scene made people suspect that the Taoist battle of the ancient emperors was reappearing, and Lin Sun, who was sweeping through the battlefield, undoubtedly became the most eye-catching character. Puff! 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 As time passed, the Emperor realm fell one after another, and their blood splashed all over the sky. They also tried to fight with their lives, but in the end it was in vain. They also tried to run for their lives, but they were killed on the spot the moment they turned around. Lin Sun did not intend to give them a chance to escape alive. Not long after, only Yu Kuan-zi and an 8th-level Emperor Realm figure from the Hidden Land Realm were left, but at this time, their expressions were livid, full of panic and horror. Up to this point in the battle, more than 10 emperors had fallen in Lin Sun's hands, but from beginning to end, no one could hurt Lin Sun at all. On the contrary, the opponent's momentum was even stronger than before. Boom! The sword cauldron moved horizontally, suppressing the Emperor Realm figure from the Hidden Land Realm. Seeing this, the latter couldn't help but cry out, "Ancestor, save me!" His voice was filled with hysteria. Boom! At the same time, there was an explosion in the depths of the clouds in the sky. Blood rained down from the sky, and a broken treasure fell like a falling meteor. Looking closely, it was the 10,000 Calamity alms bowl, but it had already been smashed, and it was dim. And in the field, there was no sign of the bitter ancestor. In the midst of the haze, only the graceful and dreamy figure she walked down from the sky and said in a cold voice, "Your ancestor can't save you anymore." The 8th-level Emperor Realm cultivator from the Hidden Land Realm saw this scene, and he couldn't help but be furious, and despair rose in his heart. How long had it been, and the ancestor was killed? At the same time, such a thought emerged in his mind. Boom! The dazzling sword cauldron pressed down like the sun, smashing his indestructible body into pieces, and blood splattered high. Damn! I was delayed by a traffic jam for 2 hours, but no matter what, I will definitely add more chapters today. On the first day of the 19th year, brothers and sisters, please guarantee the monthly tickets. Chapter 2399. The thick smell of blood permeated the air. Only Yu Kuan-zi was left at the peak of Bloody Sky Mountain. The atmosphere was solemn and silent. Lin Sun didn't continue. "Now I'll give you 2 choices." Yu Kuan-zi's countenance alternated between a livid and pale expression, and indescribable sorrow, shame, and indignation surged in his heart. The dignified sect master of the Divine Illumination ancient sect, an existence that was like the ruler of the underworld, had fallen into a hopeless situation, and his fate was beyond his control. "Speak." His voice was hoarse and low. At the foot of the mountain, the crowd sighed in their hearts. A massacre. Emperors were slaughtered mercilessly. who didn't see it with their own eyes. Who would dare to believe that the Dao Yuan Emperor, who was only at the 4th level of the Emperor realm, possessed such monstrous power? Now, even a high and mighty figure like Yu Kuan-zi had to lower his head. First, tell me the secret of controlling the power of this mountain. I can leave you a complete corpse for you to live on in this world. As soon as Lin Sun said this, Yu Kuan-zi laughed out of extreme anger. Sure enough, he finally understood why Lin Sun had many opportunities to kill him in the previous battle, but he stopped in the end. So it was for the mystery of the Order of Bloody Sky Mountain. Lin Sun's expression was calm as he continued. Second, I'll kill you and take everything I want from your soul. Either of the two choices was death. It was just a matter of dignity. Yu Kuan-zi's chest heaved up and down. His heart was filled with an indescribable sense of loss. For countless years, he had been in charge of divine image, ancient sect, like a god in the sky. Who would have thought that one day he would be beaten down to the mortal world and suffer such treatment? After a while, he suddenly raised his head with bloodshot eyes and hissed, "Even if I die, divine image, ancient sect will still exist. You Lin Daoyuan will suffer one day." His voice was filled with deep hatred. Lin Sun said, "The divine image ancestral mountain is 100,000 miles away from here. At this time, I might as well tell you that the mountain has been sealed and besieged." What? Yu Kuan-zi's eyes widened. This is impossible. Who can besiege my divine image, ancient sect in this dark world? Lin Sun said, "It doesn't matter whether you believe me or not. Now it's time for you to make a decision." Yu Kuan-zi stared at Lin Sun with a livid face. "Lin Daoyuan, you will be punished." Whoosh! She suddenly made a move and arrived before Yu Kuan-zi. She stretched out her jade-like hand and grabbed his throat. However, he was a step too late. Yu Kuan-zi's vitality receded like tide water, and his flesh and blood withered and dimmed. In just a few breaths of time, he turned into ashes that drifted down from Xi's palm. "He committed suicide," she said. Lin Sun was stunned and said, "This old guy has some backbone, but he doesn't know that even without him, I can still peep into the mystery of this mountain." As he spoke, he first cleaned up the battlefield and collected the spoils of war one by one. Only then did he size up the sky blood mountain beneath his feet and take out the sword cauldron. Buzz! The Dao sword was like lightning as it flew out of the sword cauldron. The purple phoenix flames of order that coiled around the sword emitted an obscure and mysterious energy fluctuation. Lin Sun covered the sword with his divine sense and followed the breath of the order phoenix flame, covering the entire bloody sky mountain. After a moment, Lin Sun's divine sense sensed a strange and horrifying fluctuation of the order energy lingering in the heart of the mountain. The aura of the tribulation of oblivion. In an instant, Lin Sun recognized that the strange power of order was exactly the same as the tribulation of oblivion that was produced when Nirvana Ishvara descended into the world. However, the power of order in this bloody sky mountain was obviously much weaker and was far from being able to compare with the power of order in Nirvana Ishvara. Lin Sun couldn't help but be lost in thought. The first tribulation of oblivion caused the dark purgatory to condense in the land of darkness. The second tribulation of oblivion erupted near the bloody sky mountain, causing the bloody sky mountain to undergo a strange change. Those below the Emperor realm were unable to enter, and it was shrouded in mist all year round. Every blade of grass and tree was indestructible, and no one could destroy it. The third tribulation of oblivion caused Nirvana Ishvara to descend into the world. Such a comparison made Lin Sun realize that the power of order in the bloody sky mountain was very likely the power of the tribulation of oblivion. Moreover, it was very likely to be the same as Nirvana Ishvara, the source energy of the starry sky world. When he thought of this, Lin Sun recalled his miraculous experience of comprehending and controlling the power of order when he was in Nirvana Ishvara, and he instantly had an idea. Whoosh! His divine sense entered the abdomen of the bloody sky mountain and started to touch and comprehend the power of order. If it was any other Emperor realm figure, even if it was an Emperor ancestor, not to mention comprehending it, it would be difficult for them to even notice this power of order. The reason was that the entire Bloody Sky Mountain was covered in the aura that belonged to this power of order, and it blocked all probing of divine sense. Lin Sun had relied on the power of the Order Phoenix Flame within the Sword Cauldron to resolve the blocking aura and had the opportunity to touch all of this. After the time it took for an incense stick to burn, Lin Sun withdrew his divine sense and was silent for a moment before he suddenly raised his hand. Boom! The 30 kilometers tall Bloody Sky Mountain beneath his feet instantly exploded inch by inch, transforming into a turbulent flow of earth and rocks that collapsed with a rumble. A wave of exclamations sounded out in the nearby area, and many figures could be seen hurriedly dodging. You're still not leaving after watching the show? Do you want to die? Lin Sun's indifferent voice resounded between heaven and earth. For a moment, many powerhouses hiding in the nearby area hurriedly fled and rushed into the distance, not daring to stay at all. At the same time, as Lin Sun clenched his palm, a gray shadow of order swept out from the void and fell into his palm. Senior, this is the power of order left in the world after the second Oblivion Tribulation descended, and it contains the mysteries of Oblivion. As Lin Sun spoke, he casually handed the power of order that was enough to make an Emperor ancestor go crazy to she next to him. She seemed very surprised. For me? Lin Sun smiled and said, all these years, it's fortunate that Senior has always been by my side and protected me all the way, allowing me to resolve many disasters. Now that I finally have a chance to repay you, I hope Senior won't refuse. Every word came from the bottom of his heart. When he was still a young boy temporarily living in Feiyun Village, he obtained the heaven-accessing realm, and it was also from then on that she had always been by his side. Xiao Empire, ultimate, bloodthirsty battlefield, ancient desolation, starry ancient path, dark world, true dragon world, deity phoenix world, she was the only one who had always been by his side all the way. Perhaps it was because of the heaven-accessing realm, but how could Lin Sun not be grateful for such kindness? Unfortunately, the treasures and fortuitous encounters he'd gathered over the years were practically unable to be used to repay she. This time, he finally had a chance, so of course he would not be stingy at all. To outsiders, controlling the power of order was simply equivalent to controlling a kind of foundation to dominate the world, and it was unimaginably powerful. Nameless Supreme Emperor and Sure Tiandi were all like this. However, to Lin Sun, the power of order left behind by the second Oblivion Tribulation was far inferior to Shi's kindness of accompanying him all the way. She was clearly very hesitant because she knew better than Lin Sun how rare and precious the power of order was. Although the starry sky could be said to be boundless, the power of order was extremely rare. Since ancient times, those who were fortunate enough to obtain such a fortuitous encounter were definitely as rare as phoenix feathers or Qilin horns. Take it, Lin Sun said with a smile. Without any explanation, he stuffed the ball of power of order into Shi's hand. When the fingertips of the two touched, Lin Sun only felt that it was as warm as jade, smooth and soft, and he did not feel any other difference. However, she seemed to have been electrocuted, and she withdrew her hand with a swoosh. Her graceful figure trembled, and this startled Lin Sun and made him feel puzzled. She also immediately realized that she had overreacted. She steadied her mind and said, "Then thank you." Her cold voice carried a trace of rare gentleness, like a moist and warm spring breeze blowing on a cold surface of ice. It was refreshing and soul-stirring. Lin Sun smiled and said, "Given our relationship, there is no need to thank me. If there is anything I can help you with in the future, I will not hesitate to do so." She glanced at Lin Sun and suddenly teased, "Little fellow, don't think that a ball of power of order can make me risk my life for you. This is far from enough." After a pause, she seemed to be knocking on his head and said, "Also, I watched you grow up. Don't have any other thoughts about me." After saying that, she turned into a ray of light and entered the heaven-accessing place. Lin Sun was stunned. What other thoughts? Shi's words. It was really thought-provoking, Lin Sun shook his head and left with a smile. It was time to meet up with Goldie. Shunjiao Ancestral Mountain, the place where the dark, giant Shunjiao ancient sect resided. Since ancient times, this mountain had long been regarded as a sacred place by all living beings in the dark world. In the evening, buzz, accompanied by a wave of obscure restriction, Xiaowu collapsed on the ground as if a heavy burden had been lifted from his shoulders. He panted and said, "It's done." The Shunjiao Ancestral Mountain was extremely majestic and stretched across the land. However, the mountain gate was located on a beautiful and steep spiritual mountain called Tianjiao Peak. Through the mountain gate of Tianjiao Peak, one could enter the secret realm created by the Shunjiao ancient sect. All the descendants of the Shunjiao ancient sect lived and cultivated in it. In the early morning, Goldie and Xiaowu arrived at the area where Tianjiao Peak was located without anyone noticing. The heavy defense and sentry posts were completely useless to Goldie and Xiaowu. One of them could withstand the siege of 3 emperors alone. His combat strength was astonishing. The other was a natural formation spirit that could break the restriction as easily as eating and drinking. The two worked together and did not attract any attention from the beginning to the end. However, the formation of Fallen Tao and Fallen Heaven was too complicated and vast, and it had to completely seal off the mountain gate of the Shunjiao ancient sect. Xiaowu had exhausted all his efforts and energy to complete the formation. Goldie rushed over and said anxiously, "Then what are you waiting for? Start the formation and start killing the enemies." Xiao was so tired that his eyes rolled back. He lay on the ground and groaned weakly. "Don't talk about killing the enemies. Just tire me to death first." The second update was delivered. The last update was at around 11 p.m. Chapter 2400. Big Yellow was anxious, but he could only wait. It couldn't be helped. Without Little Five's manipulation of the Fallen Tao formation, it would be almost impossible to defeat an ancient force like Shunjiao Ancient Sect. A wave of void fluctuation suddenly sounded quietly, and then Lin Sun's figure appeared out of thin air and floated over. "Done?" Big Yellow asked immediately. Lin Sun nodded and briefly explained what happened on the peak of Bloody Sky Mountain. Big Yellow sighed. "This Yukuan-Zi is a great character. Master once said that if he stepped into the realm of Emperor Ancestor, his future achievements would be immeasurable. I didn't expect that he would be killed by you before he stepped into the realm of Emperor Ancestor. Are you feeling sorry for him?" Lin Sun said casually. He glanced around and finally looked at Tianjiao Peak in the distance. He immediately judged that this should be the entrance to Shunjiao Ancient Sect. "How is that possible? Can't you see that I'm gloating?" Big Yellow said grumpily. Lin Sun looked at Little Five and asked, "When can you recover?" Little Five, who was panting from exhaustion, immediately became extremely docile and obedient in front of Lin Sun. He said without hesitation, 3 hours. Lin Sun thought for a moment and nodded. "This time, even if we can't uproot the Shunjiao Ancient Sect, we will make them pay an unbearable price." Big Yellow was overwhelmed with emotions and murderous intent. Yes, that's it. Time passed, and night fell. Bad news. Bad news. Suddenly, a wave of rapid and sharp cries resounded from extremely far away. He saw a group of figures moving towards Tianjiao Peak. The successors of Shunjiao Ancient Sect who were stationed in the nearby area were immediately alarmed and walked out. They recognized the group of figures that were rushing over. They were the powerhouses of the sect stationed in the Dark World. However, the powerhouses who came to report at this moment, regardless of their cultivation level, all looked panicked and uneasy. After a brief inquiry, the successors of Shunjiao Ancient Sect who were stationed at the mountain gate turned pale with fright and hurriedly spread the news. Emperor Daoyuan went to the appointment alone. Headmaster Yu Kuan-Zi died on the peak of Bloody Sky Mountain. The 7 great emperors who accompanied them were all killed. The grievous news was like a bolt out of the blue. Not long after, the news reached the divine illuminating ancient sect and caused an uproar. "What's the situation? Speak quickly. Quick, invite the Grand Elder out." The godly illuminating ancient sect was in chaos. Everyone was panicking and looking at each other in shock, like a group of dragons without a leader. Everyone was shocked by the bad news. Only when the Grand Supreme Elder, Imperial Ancestor Yuchong, emerged from his many years of closed-door cultivation did the extremely chaotic atmosphere in the clan calm down. That night, Divine Illumination Ancient Palace. First Supreme Elder Monarch Yu Zhong gathered all the big shots of the sect to discuss the matter of Yu Kuan-zi and the others' deaths. I can be sure that Lin Daoyuan definitely has a secret treasure that can resist the power of order. That's why he doesn't fear the power of the Blood Sky Mountain. Imperial Ancestor Yu Zhong looked like a handsome young man. He wore a black robe and sat on the main seat. His eyes were cold and indifferent. His voice rumbled like thunder and resounded throughout the hall. Similarly, there's a woman by his side who has the ability to kill the Emperor Ancestor. This is the reason why Yu Kuan-zi and the others, as well as the Bitter Life Emperor Ancestor and the others from the Hidden Land Realm, met with disaster. The atmosphere in the hall was so oppressive that it was hard to breathe. The big shots of the divine, illuminating ancient sect all had gloomy expressions. A battle had caused the death of the headmaster. This was too heavy a blow. What do you think we should do? Imperial Ancestor Yu Zhong asked in a deep voice. Of course it's revenge. Yes, we must kill Lin Daoyuan. If we don't take revenge, wouldn't Yu Kuan-zi and the others have died in vain? How will the people of the Dark World view our divine, illuminating ancient sect? The old monsters all spoke at once. All of them were murderous and didn't hide their hatred at all. In the countless years that their divine, illuminating ancient sect had stood towering in the Dark World, when had they ever suffered such a loss? Imperial Ancestor Yu Zhong's gaze was dark and cold as he said, Lin Daoyuan and that woman are traveling together. What forces do all of you think our divine, illuminating ancient sect should dispatch in order to kill them? All of them were speechless, and they glanced at each other while their expressions changed indeterminately. At this moment, they had no choice but to admit a fact. Lin Daoyuan possessed the ability to threaten their divine, illuminating ancient sect. This was very difficult for them to accept. After all, he was still a nobody in their hearts in the past. But now, he was an Emperor Daoyuan whose name resounded throughout the universe. He was the first peak emperor in the last 100,000 years. All of you've realized that unless I personally make a move and lead at least 2 Emperor Ancestor Realm existences, only then would we have a chance to kill Lin Daoyuan and that woman. Imperial Ancestor Yu Zhong's voice was heavy while his face that was handsome like a youth was covered in coldness. But have all of you thought about it? If we're determined to flee, then who in the universe can stop them? The expressions of all of them changed indeterminately while they were speechless, and it caused the atmosphere in the hall to become even more oppressive to the point it was suffocating. Not to mention that those seniors of Copper Sparrow Pavilion and the number 1 general under the command of the master of Copper Sparrow Pavilion, Battle Emperor Shao, haven't made a move yet. Imperial Ancestor Yu Zhong sighed. The severity of this matter caused him to feel that it was rather troublesome. Supreme Elder, our sect has suffered such a calamity, and even our sect master perished at the hands of our enemies. Could it be that we're just going to do nothing? Someone spoke with a muffled voice and broke the silence. Of course not. Imperial Ancestor Yu Zhong spoke resolutely while his eyes flickered with shocking divine light. Lin Daoyuan stood up for Copper Sparrow Pavilion. So we'll start by taking revenge on Copper Sparrow Pavilion. Everyone was first stunned, and then they came to an understanding. Presently, no one knew exactly where Lin Daoyuan was, so if they took the initiative to look for him, then it would probably be no different than looking for a needle in a haystack. Then how should they force him to show himself? The answer was very simple. Deal with Copper Sparrow Pavilion. As long as we force him to show himself, we'll be able to set up an inescapable net and cut off his path of retreat. At that time, the Imperial Ancestor Realm existences of the sect, and I will be able to put an end to this enmity. Imperial Ancestor Yu Zhong's eyes were cold. However, we can't just rely on our sect to take action. Yes, we have to join forces with the Hidden Land Realm. Someone said excitedly. Imperial ancestor Ku Sheng and the others have all perished on Blood Vault Mountain. How can those old fellows from the Hidden Land realm remain indifferent? Imperial ancestor Yu Zhong immediately gave an order. Shi Heng, Fei Ling, two imperial emperors stood out immediately. They were Battle Emperor Qi Heng, who was in the 7th level of the Imperial Ancestor realm, and Battle Emperor Fei Ling, who was in the 5th level of the Imperial Ancestor realm. Head to the territory controlled by the Divine Illumination sect and give the order to do everything in our power to annihilate the forces of Copper Sparrow Pavilion. Also, spread the news that if Lin Daoyuan doesn't come to the Divine Illumination sect to apologize within 10 days, then we'll definitely uproot Copper Sparrow Pavilion. Yes, the two battle emperors accepted the order. Imperial ancestor Yu Zhong looked at the other two and said, Qing Xiu, Zhengbua, the two of you will head to the Hidden Land realm together and pass on my order. Tell them to send Imperial Ancestor Realm existences to the Divine Illumination sect within 10 days to kill Lin Daoyuan. Yes, the others will wait here for the news. Once there's any movement, you must move at once. Whoever dares to be negligent will be punished. Yes, everyone responded loudly. The oppressive atmosphere in the hall was swept away, and everyone's spirits were lifted as if they had found their backbone. Imperial ancestor Yu Zhong saw all of this and sighed in his heart. If a real battle broke out, it would be extremely difficult to kill Lin Daoyuan and the woman. The current Lin Daoyuan was the most eye-catching character in the world. The weight of great Emperor Ju Yin was enough to make any ancient orthodoxy fear him. However, Imperial ancestor Yu Zhong could not say these words. Otherwise, it would boost the morale of others and diminish his own prestige. It would affect and shake the hearts of the entire sect. Hurry up and take action. Imperial ancestor Yu Zhong waved his hand. He had begun to think about how much he should pay to completely get rid of such a big trouble. The night was as dark as ink. Little Five had recovered and was in high spirits. He looked at Lin Sun and said, When do we take action? Lin Sun knocked on his forehead. Remember to call me Big Brother when you talk to me in the future. Big Brother? Little Five was stunned. Surprisingly, he did not resist or struggle. Instead, he showed a bright smile. Lin Sun, are you really willing to let me take you as my big brother? Lin Sun answered without hesitation. Of course. Is there a problem? No. Little Five shook his head quickly and smiled more brightly. Big Yellow snorted. Don't you think it's shameful to take someone as your big brother after living for so many years? Little Five rolled his eyes. What do you know? This is between me and Big Brother. Little Five was a formation spirit. When he was suppressed by Lin Sun at first, he resisted and was most worried that Lin Sun would force him to recognize him as his master. But to his surprise, Lin Sun treated him as a brother. This was completely beyond his expectation. It would be a lie to say that he was not surprised and moved. At this moment, Little Five's worries and resistance were swept away, and he no longer rejected to follow Lin Sun and do things together. Big Brother, when do we take action? Little Five raised his little face and rubbed his palms. He decided to take this opportunity to show off his ability. Let's wait a little longer. It's not the time to activate the formation yet. Lin Sun's dark eyes were deep as he looked at Tinjiao Peak under the night sky. He had already seen those who had returned to the Divine Image Ancient Sect to report the news. According to his estimation, when the old antiques in the Divine Image Ancient Sect knew the news of Yu Kuin's death, they would definitely not sit still. How long do we have to wait? Big Yellow was anxious before Little Five was. Lin Sun was about to say something, but he suddenly seemed to notice something. He smiled and said, How can we reveal our trump cards at once in such a big battle? We could take it slow. Big Yellow, some fish have come out of the water. With that, his figure flashed, and he quietly rose into the air. Big Yellow was startled, and then his eyes lit up. He jumped up and grinned, revealing a mouthful of white teeth. Damn it, if you don't come out, I'm really going to die. Let me tell you first, these prey are all mine. Don't take any of them. P.S. Send more updates. Please keep the monthly tickets. Chapter 2401. The night was as dark as ink. After Qi Hung and Fei Ling left the sect, Qi Hung suddenly let out a long sigh. Fei Ling, the headmaster, is dead, and the other 7 Emperor Realm elders are also in trouble. Just this incident alone has caused us to lose 40% of our Emperor Realm existences. Fei Ling's eyes flickered. What are you trying to say, Brother Qi Hung? Qi Hung pondered and said, the Divine Illumination Ancient Sect is leaderless right now. Although the first Supreme Elder is holding down the fort, it's only a matter of time before another sect master is appointed after we deal with Lin Daoyuan. You want to be the patriarch? Fei Ling narrowed his eyes. Qi Hung smiled. I don't have the qualifications. Never mind. We can discuss this after we deal with Lin Daoyuan. Fei Ling sighed. Right now is not the time to worry about who will become the patriarch, but what? The battle at Blood Dome Mountain caused the Divine Illumination Ancient Sect to suffer heavy losses. Brother Qi Hung, do you really think that Lin Daoyuan is so easy to deal with? With the first Supreme Elder strategy, how can we not kill him? Maybe we can. But to kill such a peerless great emperor, the Divine Illumination Ancient Sect will have to pay an unbearable price. Qi Hung's expression flickered for a while before he forced a smile. Don't worry. No matter how strong Lin Daoyuan is, can he really destroy the Divine Illumination Ancient Sect? As he spoke, he took a deep breath and glanced at the surroundings before he said, even if we take 10,000 steps back and are truly at the end of our rope, we only have to hide in the sect, and we'll be able to guarantee our safety. Is that so? A cold voice suddenly rang out. Qi Hung and Fei Ling stiffened and their hair stood on end. They wanted to react immediately, but it was too late. When the sound rang out, a dog's paw had already silently slapped down. Bang! Bang! Qi Hung and Fei Ling fainted after 2 muffled sounds. Just as their bodies were about to fall from the sky, they were picked up by Da Huang's paw and brought away. What is that? In the mountain gate, there was a sudden exclamation. 2 figures rushed out, accompanied by a dazzling light, like torches burning in the dark night. Big Yellow squinted its eyes, then it shifted sideways and charged forward. However, there was another figure in the darkness who reacted faster than him. He had already made his move the moment the 2 figures walked out. Bang! Bang! Another 2 muffled sounds rang out, and the 2 emperors who had just walked out were knocked unconscious as well. It was Lin Sun who did it. He casually stuffed the captive into the Tower of Terminus, then glared at Big Yellow. How can you make a sound when you're waiting for a hare? Big Yellow was embarrassed. I promise it won't happen again. However, the commotion still alarmed the heirs of the Divine Illuminating Ancient Sect who were stationed nearby, and they all asked, which lord is it? This was a restricted area of the Divine Illumination Ancient Sect, and it was covered in layers of restrictions and sentry posts that could be said to be an inescapable net. For countless years, no enemy had dared to invade this place. Therefore, the first reaction of the Divine Illuminating Ancient Sect's inheritors was not panic, but confusion. Do I need to report to you when I go out? Lin Sun's appearance quietly changed, and he had already turned into the appearance of one of the captured emperors. Even his voice was vivid and full of majesty. Oh, it's Elder Qingqiu. We didn't know. Please forgive us. The heirs of the Divine Illuminating Ancient Sect who had just arrived saw Lin Sun's appearance and immediately showed respect. You may leave. Lin Sun waved his hand and left. From beginning to end, he did not arouse any suspicion. When they returned to the fallen Dao formation that Little Five had set up, Lin Sun and Big Yellow released the captives they had captured. With Big Yellow personally interrogating them, they soon got some information from Qi Hung, Fei Ling, and the other 2. They wanted to use the method of destroying the Bronze Sparrow Tower to force you to show yourself. Emperor Yuchong is really ruthless. Big Yellow's eyes were cold. Boy, what do you think we should do next? Lin Sun pondered for a moment and said, continue to wait for a hare. In addition, we might as well send the news to the Hidden Land Realm. Just as Emperor Yuchong said, it would be best if they could send some emperors here. Okay. Big Yellow's eyes lit up. This attack on the Divine Illuminating Ancient Sect, no matter what the result was bound to alarm the Hidden Land Realm immediately and make them fully alert. But if they could take advantage of this opportunity to lure more big shots from the hidden land realm to the divine, illuminating ancient sect, they could completely wipe them out. Big Yellow, you do this. Remember, don't expose your identity. Lin Sun reminded. Big Yellow readily agreed and started the operation that night. Time passed quickly, and 2 days passed. In these 2 days, the battle that took place at the peak of Bloody Sky Mountain had already spread to every corner of the Dark World, causing a great sensation. Since the decline of the Bronze Sparrow Tower, the divine illuminating ancient sect and the hidden land realm were like the supreme rulers, their powers suppressing the entire sky of the Dark World. After the battle at Bloody Sky Mountain, it was like a hole had been pierced in the sky, shocking the world. Emperor Daoyuan, a legendary existence, had shaken the two giants with his own strength. The death of Yu Kuanzi, the headmaster of the divine illuminating ancient sect, added a great power to Lin Sun, causing many cultivators to tremble. As the world was in turmoil, countless eyes turned to the hidden land realm and the divine illuminating ancient sect. After suffering such a heavy blow, how could these two giants not take revenge? Soon, there was news. The first supreme elder of the divine illuminating ancient sect has issued an order. If Emperor Daoyuan does not go to the divine illuminating ancient sect to atone for his crimes within 10 days, he will completely destroy the Bronze Sparrow Tower. The divine illuminating ancient sect invites the Emperor Ancestor Realm cultivators of the Hidden Land Realm to the divine illuminating ancestral mountain to discuss how to deal with Emperor Daoyuan. These two pieces of news were earth-shattering and caused an even greater sensation in the world. 10 days. Was this an ultimatum to Emperor Daoyuan? Everyone had a hunch that a great battle against Emperor Daoyuan would probably take place in front of the divine illuminating ancient sect in 10 days. Not long after, the Hidden Land Realm also sent out news that they would send 3 Emperor Ancestor Realm cultivators to the divine illuminating ancient sect as guests. Although they said they were guests, everyone knew that they were going to help. Soon, the identities of the 3 Emperor Ancestor Realm cultivators from the Hidden Land Realm were also confirmed. They were Great Void Emperor Ancestor, Ku Ming Emperor Ancestor, and Du Qin Emperor Ancestor. Each of them could be described as a living fossil. They had been in the Hidden Land Realm since ancient times. Although countless years had passed, the rumors about them still carried a supreme power that was enough to make all living beings revere them. In these 2 days, Lin Sun, who had been hiding near Tianzhou Mountain, also saw many descendants of the divine illuminating ancient sect returning to the sect from all directions with all kinds of news. He also saw many cultivators of the divine illuminating ancient sect coming out of the mountain gate. However, he did not see a single Emperor Realm cultivator. This made Lin Sun, who had been waiting for a chance, feel a little disappointed. Right now, the only ones that he really cared about were those Emperor Realm cultivators. They're here. It was also on this day that Big Yellow hurried back with the latest news. The 3 Emperor Ancestors of the Hidden Land Realm, Desu, Ku Ming, and Du Chun, would come to the divine illuminating ancient sect today. Only 3? Lin Sun frowned. Big Yellow said, "That's quite a lot. Among the 3 magnates of the Dark World, there are only a few Emperor Ancestors. This time, the Hidden Land Realm has sent 3 Emperor Ancestors. It's already a big move." Lin Sun nodded. It made sense. Ancient orthodoxies, such as the divine illuminating ancient sect and the Hidden Land Realm, might be able to dominate the Dark World. However, compared to the 4 great Khanate spirit clans, the deity Phoenix, the dragon, the white tiger, and the black tortoise, they were still lacking. This gap could be seen from a number of Emperor Ancestors they had. What should we do next? Big Yellow rubbed his palms together. Lin Sun's eyes were cold. He said, "Big Yellow, what do you think about killing these 3 Emperor Ancestors on the way?" Big Yellow said, "If it's just me, I'm afraid I won't be able to stop the 3 old donkeys. Let she accompany you." Lin Sun interrupted. Big Yellow suddenly grinned and patted his thigh with his paw. "Then there's no problem. All right, let's do that." Lin Sun made a decision. Immediately, Big Yellow and she left quietly. The divine, illuminating ancient sect. Why haven't Qi Hung and Fei Ling sent back any news after 2 days? In the main hall of the sect, Emperor Yuchong, who looked like a teenager, frowned and asked. In the main hall, the big shots looked at each other in confusion. Perhaps the two elders are busy dealing with Copper Sparrow Tower with all their strength? But now, there's still no news about dealing with the Bronze Sparrow Tower. Emperor Yuchong's eyes were cold. Send someone to find out what's going on. Immediately, someone took the order and left. Emperor Yuchong continued. If nothing goes wrong, the 3 emperor ancestors of the Hidden Land Realm, Desu, Ku Ming, and Du Chun, will arrive today. In this way, we'll have more confidence in dealing with Lin Daoyuan. At the end, he couldn't help but laugh. The great figures present were also extremely excited. Emperor Yuchong also laughed, but he knew in his heart that the only problem now was whether Lin Daoyuan would come after receiving the news. This meant that even if they made sufficient preparations, so long as the enemy didn't come, all their preparations would be in vain. Until late at night, the 3 emperor ancestors of the Hidden Land Realm, Desu, Ku Ming, and Du Chun, still hadn't arrived. This caused Emperor Yuchong and the others who'd been waiting all this time to frown. The 3 emperor ancestors had appeared together. According to their speed, they should have arrived a long time ago. Could something have happened on the way? Time passed bit by bit. When the light of dawn tore through the night sky and a new day arrived, a wisp of gloominess had appeared between the brows of Emperor Yuchong and the others. A bad premonition arose in their hearts. As expected, on the same day, a piece of bad news arrived. The 3 emperor ancestors, Desu, Ku Ming, and Du Chun, were intercepted on the way to the ancient divine illumination sect, and none of them were lucky enough to survive. They perished on the spot. Chapter 24:02. The Dark World was in an uproar. The 3 emperor ancestors have been guarding the Hidden Land Realm since ancient times, but they were killed before they even arrived at the divine illuminating ancient sect. Countless voices of shock rang out. 3 days ago, the battle on the peak of Bloody Sky Mountain had just ended. 3 days later, the news of the death of the 3 emperor ancestors, Daxu, Ku Ming, and Du Chun was undoubtedly too shocking. Who did it? It must be related to Emperor Daoyuan. God, is the Dark World going to change? Emperor Daoyuan, what does he want to do? All kinds of discussions and voices resounded in different territories of the Dark World. They were all shocked by such bloody news. When they heard the news, the big shots of the divine, illuminating ancient sect, led by Emperor Ancestor Yuchong, were also shocked and turned pale. How is this possible? Many people found it hard to believe. 3 emperor ancestors, such a terrifying lineup that was enough to roam the heavens and look down on the starry sky. But now they were all killed together. Who dared to believe it? On this day, the entire divine, illuminating ancient sect was in a state of shock and panic. 3 days ago, their sect master and 7 Emperor Realm elders died on the peak of Bloody Sky Mountain. 3 days later, the 3 Emperor ancestors of the Earth Bodhisattva Realm that they'd invited to assist them had met with misfortune and perished on the way. There was no need to think about it at all. Even if it wasn't done by Lin Daoyuan, it was definitely related to him. And not long ago, Emperor Ancestor Yuchong had just issued an order for Lin Daoyuan to come to the divine, illuminating ancient sect within 10 days to atone for his crimes. Now that such a bloody event had happened, how could people not suspect that this was Lin Daoyuan's revenge? In the face of such a sudden tragedy, even someone as powerful as Emperor Ancestor Yuchong fell into a long silence. Indescribable grief and indignation surged in his heart. Lin Daoyuan, he wanted to overturn the structure of the Dark World? This was too much. Someone mobilize all the forces of the divine, illuminating ancient sect to find out Lin Daoyuan's whereabouts. I want to know where he is hiding as soon as possible. Emperor Ancestor Yuchong, who had been silent for a long time, erupted like a volcano. His voice was filled with boundless rage and ruthlessness. If it was possible, he wished he could personally kill Lin Sun right now. And you guys, as he spoke, Imperial ancestor Yu Chang's gaze swept past all the great figures present in the hall. We can't wait passively for news any longer. All of you, head out and patrol the world. So long as you discover any traces of Lin Daoyuan, report to me at the first possible moment. Yes. Everyone in the hall agreed and left one after another. After seeing them off, the furious imperial ancestor Yu Zhong felt a sense of helplessness in his heart. He knew very well that if he did not kill Lin Daoyuan this time, the situation would only worsen, and it might even shake the foundation of the divine illuminating ancient sect. Think about it. A top-tier martial emperor was already extremely heaven-defying, and there was a woman with the power to kill martial emperors. If such a combination hid, who would be able to find them? If they were determined to take revenge, which sect would be able to withstand the torment? The divine illuminating ancient sect had many factions in the underworld who could guarantee that they wouldn't be attacked and eradicated. It could be said that as long as they could not locate Lin Sun's whereabouts, the divine sunshine ancient sect would not be at peace. Lin Daoyuan, don't let me catch you. Otherwise, I'll surely make you wish you were dead. Imperial ancestor Yu Chang's handsome face revealed a ghastly and savage expression. Outside the mountain gate of Tianjiao Peak. Big Yellow, you're injured? Lin Sun was surprised as he looked at Big Yellow, who had just returned. He was limping as if his leg had been broken. Big Yellow bared his teeth and said angrily, "Those bald donkeys are too sinister. They fought back before they died, but I was bitten alive by that old thing called Kuming." As he spoke, he let out a hiss. A piece of his right leg was missing, and a large piece of his tendons and bones had been bitten off. Lin Sun laughed unsympathetically. It was common for dogs to bite humans, but humans biting dogs was too rare. However, he could also see that Big Yellow's injury was not serious, so he was instantly relieved. Xi's figure was graceful, and he looked like a deity or a god. He had not been injured at all. It made sense. With Xi's battle prowess and Big Yellow's, it would be strange if they could not kill 3 martial emperors from the Hidden Land realm. What do we do next? Big Yellow asked as he healed his wound. Lin Sun said, "If word of this gets out, the Divine Sunshine Ancient Sect and the Hidden Land realm will definitely be shocked. If I'm not wrong, they will definitely not be so passive anymore. Let's wait and see if there are any rabbits coming out before we make a decision." Waiting for rabbits was naturally waiting for rabbits. Now that the gate of the Divine Sunshine Ancient Sect was sealed by the Fallen Tao Formation, the more rabbits that came out, the greater the harvest. Lin Sun and the others did not wait for too long. Soon, there was a fluctuation of restriction in the mountain gate of Tianjiao Peak, and the figures of martial emperors came out one after another. The scene was so spectacular that it even alarmed the successors of the Divine Sunshine Ancient Sect who were stationed nearby. These old rabbits finally came out in groups. Big Yellow's eyes lit up. A scene of a dog chasing rabbits flashed across Lin Sun's mind, and his eyes became strange. He coughed and stood up, saying, "Big Yellow, can you still fight?" "Of course," Big Yellow said grumpily. He lifted his injured dog leg, which had already healed. Lin Sun turned his head. "Remember to wear more clothes next time." Big Yellow's body was covered with a layer of emperor armor, but when he lifted his leg, the scene was somewhat unsightly. Big Yellow was ashamed and angry. If it were not for the situation, he would have rushed up and bitten Lin Sun. This kid was becoming more and more disrespectful to him. "Let's do it." When he saw the group of 19 martial emperors coming out, Lin Sun did not hesitate to take action. Boom! The sword cauldron rushed out and soared into the sky, splashing hundreds of millions of rays of divine light, breaking the peaceful atmosphere of the world. Oh no! The cultivators of the Divine Sunshine Ancient Sect who came out of the mountain gate all paled and could not believe their eyes. This was the mountain gate of the Divine Sunshine Ancient Sect, but the enemy had come out of nowhere. It was too sudden, and no one had expected it. When they saw the figure that came out, the eyes of these martial emperors almost fell out. Lin Daoyuan. The purpose of this operation was to find traces of Lin Sun, But who would have thought that the opponent that they hated so much would directly appear in front of their mountain gate? A series of unexpected events caught these martial emperors completely off guard, as if the pie that they had been yearning for day and night had suddenly fallen from the sky. It was too sudden, but as martial emperors, their reaction was not slow. When Lin Sun came over, these martial emperors did not hesitate to attack. Boom! The world was turned upside down, and the mountains and rivers shook. Various monarch weapons and Dao techniques were like landslides and tsunamis. They whistled out in an instant, and they filled up this area and blasted the space apart. But these attacks were nothing to Lin Sun. As the sword cauldron rumbled and suppressed, it directly crushed all kinds of attacks, breaking through all obstacles like a hot knife through butter. Clang! The Taoist sword flew across the sky, and the sound of the sword resounded through the 9 heavens and 10 earths. Then, the vast and blazing sword Qi was like a 10,000 feet long rainbow, displaying the profound mysteries of the Grand Tao, and vaguely had the elegance of cutting through the ages. As the sword Qi swept across, several experts below the 5th level of the Emperor realm were killed on the spot, their souls dispersing, killing the martial emperors with one sword. This horrifying and bloody scene caused the other martial emperors' scalps to go numb. They suddenly remembered the bloody battle at the peak of the Blood Vault Mountain and the deaths of Yu Kuan-zi and the others. The person in front of him was a legendary, peerless great emperor with remarkable abilities. "Hurry up and return to the sect," someone yelled and was about to retreat into the mountain gate. Everyone else's expression changed, and they were about to take action. With their combat strength, they did not dare to fight Lin Sun. "Old rabbits, it's too late to leave now." Big Yellow's excited laughter rang out. Boom! A giant claw that covered the sky enveloped with boundless Tao light and laws. It was like a natural moat that blocked all paths of retreat for the martial emperors. Kill! The martial monarchs attacked with all their might, as if they had gone mad. The martial monarch aura they unleashed shook the world and swept out in all directions. The power of the seals covering the surrounding mountains and rivers was greatly impacted. They all knew that the only way to survive was to escape into the mountain gate. But it was obvious that Lin Sun and Big Yellow did not intend to give them a chance. Boom! Lin Sun's body glowed, and he activated the sword cauldron to attack. His power was like the ancient sky, and it was invincible. As he attacked, the Taoist sword shot out, and the sword cauldron rumbled. In an instant, a bloody storm was set off on the battlefield. Big Yellow attacked from the other side, and every time he waved his claws, an martial emperor would die on the spot. It was a brutal mess. An existence that could fight against the 3 martial emperors could easily crush these martial emperors. In just a moment, 19 martial emperors were defeated, and they fell like rain. The martial emperor's blood was like a waterfall, watering the battlefield. The descendants of the divine sunlight ancient sect who were guarding the nearby area were about to go crazy, and they screamed in terror and fled. However, as the battle between martial emperors erupted, merely the aftershock from the battle was like a storm that plundered and devoured their lives one by one. No one under the martial emperor realm survived. However, the massacre and turmoil did not last for long. Who dares to make trouble in my divine, sunlight, ancient sect? Following a deafening roar, a martial monarch realm cultivator with an imposing aura charged out from the divine, illuminating ancient sect. It was a man with gray hair and a dignified appearance. He carried an ancient sword on his back, and he looked like an immortal. His martial emperor aura shook the heavens and stirred up the wind and clouds. But as soon as he appeared, before he could figure out what was going on, a huge dog paw slapped down from the sky. It was dazzling and overbearing. "I finally caught a big fish." Big Yellow roared and rushed over, as if he had found the fattest prey. From today onwards, the sword cauldron was called the Abyssal Sword Cauldron. The word Wu was taken from the word Wu in the 9 emperor weapons of Kunlun. The word Wu represented Lin Sun's Tao, and it complemented his talent and Taoist name. The Abyssal Sword Cauldron also meant that Lin Sun's future Tao would break the boundary between Wu and Wu. Chapter 24:03. The Emperor ancestor level figure who had just walked out of the mountain gate was called Ning Zhun. He was the third supreme elder of the Divine Reflection ancient sect, a living fossil with unfathomable power. When he sensed the huge dog paw coming towards him, he couldn't help but snort coldly. A sea of Tao light rushed out from his body and collided head-on with the paw. Boom! In front of the mountain gate, the sky and earth seemed to crack. Light rain splashed everywhere. Emperor Ning Zhun's figure shook slightly, and his pupils shrank. Battle Emperor Shao. You've entered the threshold of the Emperor Ancestor realm. As he spoke, his sleeves fluttered, and two golden dragon-like chains whizzed out. The chains were branded with dense and dazzling Ancestor realm laws, and the aura of destruction was shocking. Golden prison lock. Emperor Ning Zhun's natal emperor weapon had condensed a weapon spirit. It was rumored that it could bind the universe and turn it into purgatory, imprison all spirits, and abandon the great Tao. Emperor Ancestor? What kind of look is that? I'm about to break through this realm. Big Yellow took out a huge white bone stick and smashed it down. With a loud clang, the golden prison lock shook and rolled, and sparks flew everywhere. Big Yellow attacked aggressively. His whole body was covered with Tao light, and his white bone stick pointed at the sky and hit the earth. He was so fierce and overbearing that Emperor Ning Zhun couldn't even lift his head and could only resist passively. He was horrified. Since ancient times, the Bronze Sparrow Tower had been one of the three giants in the Dark World. Its core was not because of the number of powerful Emperor Realm figures they had, nor because of the great power they had. It was because of the master of Bronze Sparrow Tower. He alone was like an invincible ruler, holding up the sky. According to Emperor Ning Zhun's knowledge, there were only 5 real core generals in the Bronze Sparrow Tower, and Battle Emperor Shao was only one of them. In the world's impression, this big yellow dog, who was adopted by the master of Bronze Sparrow Tower, had always been at the peak of the 8th level of the Emperor Realm. But now Emperor Ning Zhun realized that the rumors of the world couldn't be trusted at all. This domineering, arrogant, and cunning Big Yellow clearly possessed the terrifying foundation of an Emperor ancestor. Rumble, the battle became more and more intense. On the other side of the battlefield, Lin Sun had an absolute advantage. He crushed all the emperors one after another. Blood splattered, and screams filled the air. Now, there were only 3 emperors left out of the original 19. Lin Daoyuan, Battle Emperor Shao. How dare you come to my divine, illumination ancient sect and cause trouble? You must be tired of living. Suddenly, an extremely furious and icy cold voice resounded through the sky, and then Imperial Ancestor Yu Zhong, who was handsome like a young man, walked out of the sect with 2 Imperial Ancestors that had just emerged from closed-door cultivation. Every aura was terrifying and shook the wind. Junior Brother Yunjiao, Junior Brother Lu Rong, help Ning Zhun kill Battle Emperor Shao. Imperial Ancestor Yu Chong ordered. Emperor Shao, Emperor Yu. Before he finished speaking, the 2 Emperor Ancestor Realm bigwigs with the title of Grand Elder had already made their moves. The other was dressed in a Taoist robe with pine patterns. He had an ancient appearance, and he controlled a fire-lightning Tao seal. He was called Imperial Ancestor Cloud Jiao. One had a cold gaze that was like lightning. He wore armor, and his hair fluttered in the wind. He held a black halberd in his hand, and he was like a war god that conquered the heavens. He was called Imperial Ancestor Lei Rong, and he had slaughtered countless people in his life. Both of them were in the Ancestor Realm. As soon as they entered the battlefield, they brought great pressure to Big Yellow. Emperor Ning Zhun, who had been suppressed, secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Lin Daoyuan, you must die today. At the same time, Emperor Ancestor Yu Chong appeared in front of Lin Sun. He clawed at Lin Sun's throat. Boom! Just the power released from his body was enough to make the void explode and collapse. Even Lin Sun, who was in it, felt suffocated. Right at the same time, she's graceful figure suddenly appeared, and a rain of light rained down and easily dealt with Imperial Ancestor Yu Zhong's attack. Amid the earth-shattering collision sounds, Emperor Ancestor Yu Chang's figure flickered and appeared thousands of feet away. His eyes were cold as he stared at Shi, who had appeared out of thin air. "Are you the woman who killed Emperor Ancestor Bitterlife of the Hidden Land Realm?" "I also killed Ku Ming and Su," she said coldly and casually. Emperor Ancestor Yu Chang said expressionlessly, "Unfortunately, no matter how powerful you are, you'll be in trouble in the territory of the Divine Sunlight Ancient Sect." Before he could finish speaking, Imperial Ancestor Yu Zhong waved his sleeve. Boom! A jade ruler floated up into appearance out of thin air, and the words Tao Guidance were inscribed on it. Along with its appearance, an expanse of forbidden energy of order suddenly surged into appearance in the sky, and it was like a pitch-black tribulation cloud as it descended and poured into the jade ruler. In an instant, Emperor Ancestor Yu Chang's aura changed. He seemed to have transformed into a supreme god. He controlled the order power and deterred the world. This was the order power. With a jade ruler as a guide, he borrowed the taboo order power that covered the starry sky. Lin Sun and she looked at each other. Although there was surprise in their eyes, they didn't panic. In the past, they would have fled immediately when faced with such a threat. Just like when they first entered the Dragon Palace, they had no choice but to flee when faced with the order power controlled by the ancestor spirit. But now, they had nothing to fear. Lin Sun said indifferently, "Emperor Shi Tiandi treats the divine sunlight ancient sect well. He's even willing to let you borrow the taboo order power. He's only borrowing it. Judging from his aura, the taboo order power he borrows is limited. It might be able to threaten Emperor Ancestor Realm existences, but it's not enough." She also spoke up casually. Back in the ancient Desolation region, she had appeared to resist the taboo order power. How could she not know how powerful this power was? Lin Sun and Shi's reactions made Emperor Ancestor Yu Chang frown. There was no fear, and not even a trace of panic. Was he bluffing, or was he fearless? Shi, the jade ruler, flowed with an obscure taboo order power aura. It was like a powerful and invincible belief, sweeping away all the doubts in Emperor Ancestor Yu Chang's heart. His eyes were cold and indifferent as he stared at Lin Sun and Shi. Even if the Copper Sparrow Housemaster was here, I'm afraid he wouldn't dare to boast like this. Moreover, the Copper Sparrow Housemaster has probably already died. What do you have to resist the forbidden power of order that covers the heavens? His words were filled with disdain. In reality, he had treated Lin Sun and Shi as his greatest enemies from the beginning. Otherwise, he wouldn't have used the taboo order power right at the start of the battle. Resist? No, from today onwards, the Divine Sunlight Ancient Sect will no longer exist in this world. Lin Sun smiled with a cold gaze. And the grudge between you and me will end today. How laughable. Emperor Ancestor Yu Chang couldn't help but laugh. He waved the jade ruler in his hand. Instantly, the terrifying taboo order power charged towards Shi like divine chains that whipped the world. It seemed like a simple attack, but any Emperor Ancestor would not dare to take it head-on. That was because it was the taboo order power that covered the heavens and cut off the path to the other side. How could such power be ordinary? Since ancient times, only the eldest disciple of Mount Heart, the Battle Emperor, had defeated such power. Apart from him, there was no one else in the heavens who could do so. However, at this moment, she did not dodge. A ball of grayish order power appeared in her slender and translucent jade-like hand. It turned into a spear that emitted a strange aura and swept out. Boom! The power of the spear and the jade ruler collided. It was like a battle between two supreme order power. A rain of order power covered the sky, causing the heavens and the earth to wail. Although the Divine Illumination Ancient Sect had set up many restrictions in the surrounding area, they all collapsed at this moment. The mountains collapsed, the plants turned to dust, and all living things were destroyed. The collision of such power was too terrifying. Lin Sun had dodged far away at the first possible moment. Even so, he was still affected by the terrifying order power, and it shook him to the point his vital energy and blood roiled. He had no choice but to take out the Abyssal Sword Cauldron and rely on the Order Phoenix flames within the Abyssal Sword Cauldron to deal with the impact. When he looked up, besides the divine sunlight, ancient sect's heavenly sunlight peak, the surrounding mountains had been destroyed and flattened. You actually control Order power as well. Emperor Ancestor Yu Chang's shocked and furious voice resounded amidst the dust. His expression had already become incomparably solemn. Being able to borrow the taboo Order power was his greatest reliance. But now, with the appearance of Order power controlled by She, his advantage was gone. She was not one who liked to talk nonsense. Her figure flickered, and she charged forward with the spear formed from Order power. A dreamy rain of light interweaved around her. It was dazzling and beautiful, and she was like a fairy from the heavens. Moreover, her combat techniques were peerlessly fierce. In an instant, she heavily injured Emperor Ancestor Yu Chang. Even Lin Sun was impressed by his unparalleled style. "Brat, don't just watch the battle. Come and help." Big Yellow's muffled voice resounded from afar. He was being besieged by 3 Emperor Ancestors and was in a very passive situation. Lin Sun responded with an "oh" and moved his body in a flash, activating the Sword Cauldron to attack. Anyone who saw this scene would think that Lin Sun had gone mad. This was a battle between Emperor Ancestors, and a 4th-stage Emperor Realm cultivator joining in was no different from courting death. In fact, Ning Zhen, Yin Jiao, and Lu Rong thought the same. Their eyes were filled with mockery and disdain when they saw Lin Sun joining in. However, as Lin Sun released a vast expanse of white light, heaven and earth seemed to have fallen into a moment of stillness. Their movements also became sluggish. Bang! At this moment, Big Yellow smashed down with his white bone rod, and Emperor Ancestor Yun Jiao's body instantly exploded. His flesh and soul were crushed and erased. The other 2 Emperor Ancestors shuddered, and their expressions changed drastically. What was going on? Kill! The passive situation was broken, and Big Yellow became extremely ferocious. He was unforgiving, and he chased after the 2 Emperor Ancestors Ning Zhen and Lu Rong. At this moment, Emperor Ancestor Yu Chang's muffled groan resounded from afar. His body was already in tatters, and he was completely suppressed by She in the battle. Go! At this moment, Emperor Ancestor Yu Chang made a decision without hesitation. He would retreat first to preserve his life. Ning Zhen and Lu Rong also sensed the severity of the situation. The scene of Emperor Ancestor Yun Jiao's death had already shocked them and frightened them. At this moment, they did not dare to continue fighting, and they wanted to withdraw. However, at the same time, Lin Sun shouted, "Little Five, it's your turn." Chapter 2404. Since the rabbit had already come out, how could he possibly allow it to escape? It was time to reel in the net. This was Lin Sun's plan. The existence of the Tao Lord Annihilation Formation was a trump card to annihilate all his enemies. If they were allowed to escape into the sect, then all sorts of unexpected events were bound to occur. Bang! Little Five, who'd been accumulating strength since a long time ago, activated the Tao Lord Annihilation Formation at the first possible moment. Tao markings surged out like a tide in the surroundings, and they seethed and spread out to cover the heavens and the earth. Moreover, countless dense and dazzling talismans flickered and flowed like the embodiment of the Grand Tao. In an instant, the heavens and the earth changed. It was like a cage that cut off the Grand Tao and blotted out the sky. The few remaining Emperor Realm experts, as well as the 2 Emperor Ancestors, Ning Zhen and Lu Rong, who were about to escape, were all trapped within. The most surprising thing to Lin Sun was that Imperial Ancestor Yu Chang actually seemed to be extremely formidable at such a critical moment. He'd forcefully utilized the forbidden energy of order triggered by the Jade Ruler to break open a path of survival and escape the Tao Lord Annihilation Formation. However, the entrance to the sect had been locked down a long time ago, and she was hot on his tail. Little Five commanded the formation while circulating the full might of the Tao Lord Annihilation Formation. For a time, wind, lightning, and fire surged within the formation, and it revealed an inconceivably terrifying torrent of destruction. At the first possible moment, those imperial emperors were the first to be unable to hold on any longer, and they were annihilated within the formation. On the other hand, the two imperial ancestors that were trapped within the formation fought desperately, but they suffered injuries incessantly along with the passage of time. In just a short moment, they were covered in injuries while their bodies were dyed red with blood, and shrill cries, furious roars, and curses rose and fell. Lin Sun and Big Yellow stood outside the formation with piercingly cold gazes that didn't fluctuate in the slightest. Bang! In the end, along with deafening and violent rumbling, Ning Zhun and Imperial Ancestor Larong's figures were drowned by the boundless torrent of light, and then they collapsed and transformed into ashes that scattered into the surroundings. Little Five wasn't satisfied, and he said, "It's just two old fellows. Isn't that a little too wasteful? Just think about how many peerless divine materials were used to set up such a formation." Big Yellow spoke angrily. Lin Sun looked towards the distance instead. Not long after, an incomparably mournful cry came from afar. "Sure, Tiandi will never let you go. He won't." This was Imperial Ancestor Yu Chang's voice, and it tore through the sky while carrying unwillingness and rage. But soon it stopped abruptly. On the other hand, Shi's figure flashed over from extremely far away. He was graceful and hazy, and a rain of light interweaved around him. His otherworldly elegance illuminated the devastated landscape. Relieved, Lin Sun smiled. The surroundings were deathly silent, and the scene of devastation filled his eyes. The air was still suffused with the pungent smell of gunpowder and blood. In this battle, he had killed 4 Thearchs and 19 Thearchs of the God-illuminating ancient sect. There were countless other successors of the divine sunlight ancient sect stationed nearby as well. According to his understanding, after this battle and the deaths of Yu Kuan-zi and the others on the Blood Sky Mountain a few days ago, the emperors of the divine illumination ancient sect were almost all dead. There was no longer any threat. Thinking of this, Lin Sun was overwhelmed with emotions. This hatred originated from great Emperor Baki. It had lasted for many years, but it had finally come to an end today. "I'm afraid there are many ambushes in this mountain gate," Big Yellow said and laughed. "Unfortunately, those old rabbits are already dead. These ambushes are no longer a threat to us. Let's go in." Big Yellow took the lead. "Xiaowu, you stay here and control the formation. Kill anyone who tries to escape." After saying that, Lin Sun and she followed closely behind Big Yellow and entered the mountain gate. The secret realm of the divine sunlight ancient sect was not inferior to the dwelling place of any ancient orthodoxy in the world. It was full of blessed lands, and the air was enshrouded with a thick aura of chaos. Spiritual birds and auspicious beasts danced in the air. It was like a sacred pure land. After countless years of continuous improvement, the heritage and wealth accumulated in this secret realm had already reached an unimaginable level. In fact, a blessed land that could support the cultivation of many Thearchs was already rare and precious in the starry sky. When Lin Sun and the others entered, the successors of the divine sunlight ancient sect living in the secret realm were all shocked and fell into chaos. For Lin Sun and the others, there was no longer any threat in this place. They were almost invincible. In just 15 minutes, the divine sunlight ancient sect was completely suppressed. When they arrived at the supreme forbidden area of the divine sunlight ancient sect, Lin Sun couldn't help feeling emotional after confirming that there was no threat. The divine sunlight ancient sect, which had dominated the dark world for countless years, was destroyed by Lin Sun today. On this day, the news of the destruction of the divine sunlight ancient sect came out, causing a sensation in the dark world. Countless people were shocked and frightened. How could Emperor Daoyuan be so powerful? There was an uproar. A few days ago, the Battle of Bloody Sky Mountain made the name of Emperor Daoyuan shine alone in the sky of the dark world, causing countless heated discussions. Recently, with the destruction of the divine sunlight ancient sect, Lin Sun's power also suppressed the sky of the dark world, like a dominator. In the past, the divine sunlight ancient sect was like one of the three dominators, ruling the dark world for countless years. Its power was so great that some strong people in the starry sky were terrified. Who would have thought that overnight? The monstrous power has become a thing of the past. The voice with shock and emotion resounded in different places of the dark world. Lin Daoyuan. He is a living legend. A living legend. His name is destined to be spread through the ages and shake the world. Everyone realized that from today on, the pattern of the dark world had been rewritten by Lin Sun alone. From today on, the divine sunlight ancient sect was removed from the world. In the dark place. After Qing Ying and other old men of Bronze Sparrow Tower heard the news, they couldn't help falling into shock for a long time. In the Battle of Bloody Sky Mountain, Yu Kuan-zi and others were killed, and Emperor Kusheng was killed. This was already a rare achievement in the world. But now, even the divine sunlight ancient sect was destroyed and removed, which was completely beyond the cognition of Qing Ying and others. After a long time, Qing Ying calmed down a little and immediately issued an order. At this time, it's time for our Bronze Sparrow Tower to take some action. Everyone, please go to various places and gather the old subordinates of Bronze Sparrow Tower to take back the territory that originally belonged to us. The divine sunlight ancient sect was destroyed. The territory and forces under its control were still there, but they were destined to be in a state of disunity, like lambs waiting to be slaughtered. If they didn't take advantage of this opportunity, when would they take action? On this day, the forces of Bronze Sparrow Tower, hidden in all parts of the dark world, were mobilized. Like a volcano that had been suppressed for a long time, began to erupt. The impact of the destruction of the divine sunlight ancient sect was far more than that. It didn't take long for the world to find that the territories and forces controlled by the hidden land realm in the dark world were all evacuated and disappeared. At the same time, the gate of the hidden land realm was completely closed and isolated from the world. Such a scene drew the attention of the world and caused a mighty uproar. Does this mean that the hidden land realm also realized the seriousness of the situation and decided to hide in order to protect themselves? Many people made such a speculation. This is inevitable. After the destruction of the divine sunlight ancient sect, the Dao Yuan Emperor's next target will undoubtedly be the hidden land realm. And you have to know that on the Blood Vault Mountain, the Bitter Life Emperor and the other 9 Emperor Realm existences were destroyed. Not long ago, the 3 Emperor Realm ancestors, Daxu, Ku Ming, and Du Chun, were also killed. Think about it. The Hidden Land Realm has already lost 4 Emperor Realm ancestors and many Emperor Realm existences. In addition to the shock caused by the destruction of the Divine Sunlight Ancient Sect, how would they have the courage to fight against the Dao Yuan Emperor? Hiding in a corner is undoubtedly the wisest thing to do. The discussion about the Hidden Land Realm was like a storm sweeping through the dark world. Some people looked down on the Hidden Land Realm, thinking that the Hidden Land Realm used to be so strong and the entire sect was unafraid of death. But now, they were afraid without a fight. Some people sighed, thinking that with the destruction of the Divine Sunlight Ancient Sect and the retreat of the Hidden Land Realm, the Dao Yuan Emperor would probably be the ruler of the dark world from now on. Some people saw further and believed that when Shi Tiandi returned from the Kunlun ruins, the achievements that the Dao Yuan Emperor had made today would be blown away by the wind and rain, and he would undoubtedly die. While the outside world was discussing, Lin Sun had already counted the wealth that the Divine Sunlight Ancient Sect had accumulated over the countless years. In short, when faced with the wealth accumulated by such an ancient orthodoxy, Lin Sun was slightly dazed. There was too much. Countless divine materials, elixirs, ancient books, and treasures piled together could form a towering treasure mountain. Just the Taoist crystals alone could be counted in tens of billions, and the other various treasures could be innumerable, their value immeasurable. This God-illuminating ancient sect is so rich. De Huang sighed. It lay among all the treasures, its eyes drifting away. But in the next moment it suddenly stood up, rubbed its palms, and said, "Let's go to the hidden land realm. The treasures that those old monks have accumulated can only be more than the divine, sunlight, ancient sect." It seemed very fanatical and full of energy. Lin Sun said impatiently, "After learning that the divine sunlight, ancient sect was destroyed, how could the hidden land realm not be prepared? Even if we want to kill our way there is no need to rush." He was sizing up and reading the ancient books passed down by the divine sunlight ancient sect. These books were recorded in jade slips, and they were piled up like a small mountain, dazzling and all-encompassing. In Lin Sun's opinion, the Taoist scriptures that such an ancient orthodoxy had accumulated over countless years were more valuable than the other treasures. "Lin Sun, look at this," she suddenly said from not far away. She was holding an inconspicuous gray stone in her hand. Anything that could catch Shi's eye was naturally not ordinary. Lin Sun walked forward and was about to take in his hand, but she tossed it to Lin Sun with her finger, as if she was afraid that Lin Sun would touch her finger again. Lin Sun was stunned. Then he picked up the stone and sized it up carefully. The black stone was extremely heavy, as if it was carrying a mountain. An ordinary person would not be able to bear its weight. Its surface was as smooth as a mirror, as if it had been polished countless times by extremely sharp objects over countless years. It was slightly dented. On the back, there were 4 ancient words carved, "Sharpen the heart like a blade." "Welcome, everyone, to follow Goldfish. Just 200 more followers, and Goldfish will update." Chapter 2405. Sharpen the heart like a blade. Every single word was sharp like a sword, and it was filled with extreme conceit. It wasn't ostentatious, but it was conceited to the extreme. When he looked at it carefully, Lin Sun's eyes couldn't help but narrow, and he actually felt pain from the words. However, when he sensed it with his mind, these words were like stars hidden deep in the abyss, like pearls sealed in a box, and they revealed a strand of an unfathomable and untouchable ethereal and profound feeling. Lin Sun couldn't help but reveal a strange expression. It was merely 4 words, but what he saw and felt in his heart was completely different. In his days, he seemed to have seen a peerless sword emperor that was full of pride, fierce, and conceited. However, his state of mind was leisurely like the clouds, and it was ethereal and unfettered. It carried an unrestrained and broad-minded feeling. "This is a whetstone," said she from the side. "Just by looking at the words on it, we can tell that the owner of this item definitely had unparalleled attainments in the sword Tao. Moreover, his mental state was carefree and unrestrained like the wind. He was in existence like a sword immortal." Shi's voice carried a trace of admiration. Lin Sun deeply agreed. Sharpen the heart meant to sharpen one's state of mind like sharpening one's sword. A sword whetstone that had been left behind for countless years still possessed such an unparalleled charm, and it was obvious how extraordinary its owner was. But in the end, it was a whetstone in the end. Besides being made of extremely special materials and extremely rare, there was nothing special about it. After thinking for a while, Lin Sun put it away in the end. Sharpen the heart. These words resonated with him, and it was like meeting a bosom friend after being separated by countless years. He was overjoyed. After that, she picked some more treasures and put them away, and he didn't spare another glance at this magnificent wealth. Even though there were many treasures, they were still acceptable. Lin Sun carefully selected for a long time, and he put away some divine materials, medicinal pills, and ancient books that were beneficial to his cultivation. After that, he collected some emperor-rank treasures for Wu Kei, Yi, and the others as food. Little Five and Goldie were choosing their own treasures as well, and they'd obtained a great deal of benefits. After all, this was the wealth that the divine illumination ancient sect had accumulated over countless years. Even martial emperors would go crazy over it, let alone ordinary cultivators. In the end, Lin Sun put away all the wealth and planned to give it to Qing Ying so that she could give it to the successor of Bronze Sparrow Tower. After staying in the divine miracle ancient sect for another day, Lin Sun made a decision. He would leave Big Yellow here to deal with the aftermath, while he and she would head to the Hidden Land realm to investigate the situation. There were many disciples who had been suppressed in the divine Sunshine Ancient Sect. Lin Sun and the others couldn't be bothered to kill them, so they planned to leave them to the Bronze Sparrow Tower. Apart from this, there were many other matters that required Copper Sparrow Tower's help to take care of. After all, when a colossus like the Divine Illumination Ancient Sect had fallen, the forces, treasures, territories, all sorts of things that were left behind were innumerable and extremely complicated. Lin Sun was not in the mood to deal with these things. The reason why he had Big Yellow stay behind was so that it could contact the experts of Copper Sparrow Pagoda and arrange for people to devour and digest the inheritance left behind by the Divine Illumination Ancient Sect. 2 days later, Brahma Cloud Domain. A long time ago, the Brahma Cloud Domain was the territory controlled by the Hidden Land Realm. It was like a country of Buddhism, with shaved heads and black monk robes everywhere. However, in recent days, as the news of the destruction of the Divine Miracle Ancient Sect spread, the Brahma Cloud Domain also fell into a great shock. Countless Buddhist cultivators under the command of the Hidden Land Realm fled in panic, causing the vast territory to become desolate and desolate. It seems that the Hidden Land Realm has indeed sensed the danger and has retreated, just as the outside world said. Lin Sun and she appeared in the Brahma Cloud Domain. Along the way, they saw some small fries who were hiding, but they didn't even meet a single disciple of the Hidden Land Realm who was worth looking at. With our strength, if we kill our way into the Hidden Land Realm, as long as there are no unpredictable dangers, it shouldn't be a problem to overturn this force, she said casually. Lin Sun counted on her fingers. Counting on his fingers, there were 4 Imperial Ancestor Realm cultivators who had fallen in the Hidden Land Realm, and 8 other Imperial Emperors had been killed. According to the information she and Lin Sun had, there should be only 1 Emperor Ancestor left in the Hidden Land Realm. As for the headmaster of the Hidden Land Realm, Void Wind Buddhist Emperor, just like Yu Kuan-Zi of the Divine Miracle Ancient Sect, was only at the peak of the 8th level of the Emperor Realm. Lin Sun's dark eyes were deep, and he said calmly, "Let's find out the situation first. This hatred must be settled." He wouldn't forget that as early as in the ancient Desolation Realm, he was regarded as a heretic by the Hidden Land Realm and was frequently targeted and suppressed. The hatred between them had long been irreconcilable, and it was time to settle it. Star Saint Mountain. The entrance to the Hidden Land Realm was also regarded as the sacred mountain of the Hidden Land Realm. In the past years, it was the supreme pure land that countless devout believers worshipped. 10 minutes later, Lin Sun and she appeared in front of Star Saint Mountain. Looking up, they saw that the mountain was like a blooming lotus propping up the sky. It was majestic and magnificent. Under the investigation of Lin Sun and she's divine senses, they saw that the mountain was covered with countless restrictive powers, like layers of murderous tribulations, revealing a heart-palpitating aura. Lin Sun raised his eyebrows. The entrance to the Hidden Land Realm has been completely sealed from the inside. It won't be easy to sneak in. Ordinary Emperor ancestors might not even be able to break in. At the end of his words, he smiled. Of course, for me, it will just take some time to break the restrictive formations. She glanced at him. Then why are you still talking nonsense? Lin Sun touched his nose and smiled bitterly. I have nothing to do, so I was just chatting. As he spoke, he went straight forward and stood in the air, looking up and down at Star Saint Mountain, which was covered with countless restrictive powers. After a long time, he waved his robe sleeve. Boom! The sky was filled with Taoist light, turning into lines of strange and obscure Taoist patterns. They suddenly rushed to different positions on Star Saint Mountain. The entire mountain suddenly started trembling violently, while divine radiance roiled, and a myriad of fluctuations of restrictions surged into appearance. Flames of light shot into the heavens and the earth, and the might it emanated was boundlessly terrifying. Lin Sun's black eyes shone brightly as he scanned the mountain. At the same time, he made hand seals and condensed all kinds of magical Taoist patterns into Star Saint Mountain. rumble, Star Saint Mountain shook more and more violently, causing the mountains and rivers within thousands of miles to tremble. In Xi's vision, the restrictive powers covering Star Saint Mountain were like layers of shackles that were being broken by Lin Sun one by one. In this regard, she had to admit that in terms of attainment in Taoist patterns, Lin Sun could be said to be unparalleled in the world. Time passed bit by bit. After half an hour, Lin Sun's hands flew up and suddenly pressed down. Boom! The whole Star Saint Mountain seemed to be pressed down by the hand of a god. The layers of restrictive powers covering it immediately collapsed layer by layer, splashing countless light torrents. Even the most gorgeous fireworks in the world were not as spectacular as this scene. Lin Sun squinted for a while and said, "The restrictive formations covering this mountain are not too powerful. The trouble is that there are too many restrictive formations. It is a bit troublesome to break them layer by layer. Let's go." He led the way. The true appearance of Star Saint Mountain had been completely exposed. An ancient altar was being repaired halfway up the mountain. A black Buddha statue stood on the altar. It had 3 heads and 6 arms, and there was a big lotus under its feet. Its appearance was blank without any facial features. It was like a faceless Buddha. The only difference was that there was a split eye between his eyebrows. It had an eye, but no pupil. It was extremely strange, and a single glance at it would cause one's hair to stand on end. Lin Sun was stunned. According to the information he knew, this statue, standing on the altar of Star Saint Mountain, was the founder of the hidden land realm, Xitigarbha Emperor. However, what Lin Sun saw conflicted with his knowledge. Because he clearly remembered that in the vast territory controlled by Xitigarbha Emperor, there was a Xitigarbha temple in every city, in which a statue of a divine beast was enshrined. It was said that the divine beast was the original appearance of Xitigarbha Emperor, the founder of the hidden land realm. During the period when he first entered the dark world, Lin Sun also entered a Xitigarbha temple and saw the appearance of Xitigarbha Emperor. It was a tall Buddhist shrine with a height of 300 meters. On both sides of the Buddhist shrine, there were stone statues of lions, tigers, elephants, unicorns, Xieji, Xuelwan, and other beasts. There were as many as 3,000 statues in total. Each stone statue was lifelike, exuding different power and charm, as if it could wake up from silence at any time. In the Buddhist shrine, there was a statue of a deity. It was also in the shape of a beast, but its appearance was extremely strange. Its head was like a lion and tiger. Its mouth was like a crocodile. Its eyes were like a snake. Its ears were like a cow and a horse. Its scales were like a fish and snake. Its feet were like a phoenix. Its horns were like a cow and deer. Its beard was like a dragon, and its tail was like a dog. It could be called the 9 odd beasts. It sat on the Buddhist shrine with its eyes closed. Its body was like a towering mountain, and its whole body was shrouded in hazy, misty darkness. It was like a god from the darkness, exuding a majestic aura that overlooked the heavens. It was truly too strange and horrifying. No matter who saw it, their minds would be shaken. Even Lin Sun felt a chill in his heart when he first saw this beast-shaped deity statue. He had never expected that this would be the appearance of the founder of the hidden land realm. Now, the deity statue, standing on the altar on Star Holy Mountain, had 3 heads and 6 arms. It had a single eye on its forehead and was faceless. It was also extremely strange and horrifying. One was a beast-shaped deity statue, and the other was a faceless, one-eyed Buddha statue. Between these 2 images, which was the original appearance of Xitigarbha Emperor, Lin Sun was lost in thought for a moment. He vaguely felt that something was wrong, but he could not tell what was wrong. "What's wrong?" she asked. I suddenly remembered something from the past. As Lin Sun spoke, he told Xi some of what he saw when he entered the Xitigarbha temple. After listening, she thought for a moment and said, "It is normal for a character like Xitigarbha Emperor to have thousands of incarnations. Then do you know why every Xitigarbha temple in the territory controlled by the Hidden Land Realm enshrines the 9 odd beast-shaped deity statues?" Lin Sun asked softly, his dark eyes deep. Chapter 24:06. Without waiting for Xi to ask, Lin Sun answered. To plunder the power of will of the great path. Xi's eyes narrowed slightly, as if he had also noticed the seriousness of the problem. In the dark world, the Hidden Land realm had been here for countless years. There were countless cities in the territory it controlled, and in each city, there was a Ksitigarbha temple. If it was to collect the power of the Great Path, after countless years of accumulation, how much power of the Great Path had been accumulated in the Hidden Land realm? What was the purpose of collecting so much power of the Great Path? The power of the Great Path is divided into two types. One is to make a great wish on one's own path, to verify the great path of the heavens, to open up a new path, or to create an unprecedented method. Such power of the Great Path cannot be plundered by others. She said slowly, the power of the Great Path is the power of the Great Path. With the faith of all living beings, one can continuously receive the blessing of the power of all living beings. On the path of the Great Path, one can wield infinite power and even create a golden body of merit, immortal and eternal. In my opinion, the power of the Great Path collected by the Hidden Land realm is probably to create a golden body of merit for a powerful person. When one has a golden body of merit, he is like a god that all living beings believe in. As long as all living beings continue to exist, the person they believe in will be immortal and eternal. After hearing this, Lin Sun could not help but be surprised. This was the first time he had heard about a golden body of merit in a god of faith. It sounds like a mysterious cultivation method, but in the eyes of a real emperor ancestor, this path of becoming a god with the power of the Great Path is a crooked one. She explained, since ancient times, there had only been two ways for an emperor ancestor to break through one's own realm and seek higher cultivation. One was to go to the Nirvana world and seek a new power of the Great Path. The other was to collect the power of the Great Path and use the power of faith to seek a transformation of one's own cultivation, so that one could cross the threshold of the Emperor Ancestor realm. But the second method had a huge drawback. If one used the power of the Great Path to break through, they would be restrained by all living beings. This also meant that even if one's own cultivation broke through to the Emperor Ancestor realm and underwent a new transformation, becoming a god in the hearts of all living beings, controlling incredible power, immortal and eternal. But at the same time, the path of the Tao would stop here. All living beings would continue to exist, but the path of the Tao would never be able to break through. At this point, Xi's voice turned cold. The reason this Tao path is evil is because anyone who borrows the wishes of all living beings to break through will usually use their own will to replace the will of all living beings. They use their own likes and dislikes to replace the likes and dislikes of all living beings. The life and death of all living beings are decided by a single thought. Isn't this no different from enslaving all living beings? Lin Sun was shocked. She said, the most terrifying thing is that going against a person who possesses the golden body of virtue is equivalent to going against all living beings. You will be condemned by all and spat on by all. Even if you die, you will leave behind an eternal infamy in the annals of history and be ridiculed for generations to come. And if you kill such a god, it's the same as killing the heart of all beings. That's why I said that this is an evil path. After hearing this, Lin Sun could not help but be stunned. He felt a chill in his heart. He had indeed never heard of such a path of cultivation before. If the Hidden Land realm collected the wishes of all living beings in order to become a god through faith, it could be imagined that once such a god really appeared, it would be simply chilling. However, you don't have to worry too much. This evil path is not so easy to walk. If there is a slight mistake, the power of all living beings will backfire and lead to the disaster of death, she said. At least as far as I know, there are tens of thousands of Daos in the world, and each has its own way of cultivation. Only this evil path will be destroyed once it appears. After all living beings in the world, including countless cultivators, do not want their will and preferences to be controlled by others. They want to be enslaved and have no control over their own life and death. Lin Sun nodded. He vaguely understood why the Hidden Land realm dared to collect the wishes of all living beings so blatantly. First, it was because this was the dark world where order did not exist. Second, it was because the existence of the wishes of all living beings had many magical uses. Most of the cultivators in the world even used the wishes of all living beings when they were in the Saint realm. For example, the Great Way Lawless Bell once accumulated an astonishing amount of the wishes of all living beings. The seal of all living beings controlled by Lin Sun's yellow Taoist body was also a kind of control of the wishes of all living beings. Under such circumstances, probably no one in the world would believe that the Hidden Land realm dared to set foot on this evil path, risking universal condemnation. If the Hidden Land realm is not eliminated, it will be a disaster in the end. Lin Sun's voice was calm. Since a long time ago, he had an instinctive resistance and rejection to the Hidden Land realm. Until now, his hatred and hostility had grown. As he spoke, he reached out his hand and pressed. An entrance emerged at the feet of the faceless Buddha statue on the altar. A rain of light poured down. If one wanted to enter, it was like entering from the feet of the faceless Buddha statue. It was like crawling and worshiping. She snorted coldly and waved his hand. Dazzling Taoist light swept out. Amidst the rumbling, the faceless Buddha statue that had stood there for an unknown number of years instantly turned into powder and vanished into thin air. She and Lin Sun then entered the entrance. At the end of the entrance was the Hidden Land realm. It was a secret realm that was like a pure land of Buddha. Auspicious clouds floated in the sky, and between the mountains and rivers, holy black Buddha light flowed. Ancient and solemn temples and buildings could be seen everywhere. Bursts of Sanskrit were ethereal in the void, and there seemed to be wisps of mysterious Zen rhymes flowing in the air. As soon as Lin Sun and she appeared, they were besieged from all directions. Kill! Release these two heretics! The roar was like a thunderclap, full of majesty. Figures rushed over like a tide. Every one of them was wearing a black monk robe. Their eyes were indifferent, and their bodies were surrounded by black Buddha light. They either held alms bowls, monk staffs, rulers, or horsetail whisks. Some took out green lamps, Buddhist seals, sutras, wooden fish, or performed secret techniques of Buddhism. They were like angry Vajras or Buddhas who could destroy the world. Hundreds and thousands of them attacked at the same time. It was a spectacular sight. All of a sudden, the world fell into chaos. Treasure light flowed, and thousands of Buddhas appeared. But how could such a scene be a threat to Lin Sun and Shi? There was no need for Shi to make a move. Lin Sun's tall figure suddenly stretched out. Countless dazzling Taishian sword chi swept in all directions like storm. Boom! 8 million sword chi swept across the 9 levels of heaven. In an instant, the land in all directions seemed to have been crushed. Countless descendants of the Hidden Land realm were instantly crushed by the brilliant sword chi. A thick rain of blood poured down, drowning the area. She was surrounded by the rain of light, looking ethereal and holy in this bloody world. The Hidden Land realm is really cruel to send these people below the Emperor realm to die. Lin Sun looked into the distance and said, "The people of the Hidden Land realm are said to be fearless of death. Maybe this is their tradition." As soon as he finished speaking, there was another earth-shattering battle cry in the distance. Countless monks dressed in black monk robes with indifferent and resolute expressions came whistling over from afar like rolling black clouds. They were so densely packed that one could not see the end of them. That bloody scene of slaughter from before was extraordinarily terrifying. If it was any other ordinary cultivator, then that cultivator would probably not dare to come here at all after finding out about the danger. But the descendants of the Hidden Land realm turned a blind eye to it. They came in groups as if they did not care about life and death. Lin Sun narrowed his eyes and said, "It seems that they have long been aware of our arrival. But they're so stupid to do this. Aren't they worried that we will kill all their descendants?" "Look," she said. As she spoke, he extended his hand and made a grabbing motion. Then, He plucked strands of obscure wish energy from the dense blood mist that permeated the surroundings. Lin Sun understood in an instant. It's not that they are not afraid of death. It's that their will and mind have long been enslaved by the power of will. That's right. There is no lack of people who are not afraid of death in this world. However, it is impossible for everyone in a sect to not be afraid of death, she said. After the Kitagarbha Bodhisattva's descendants that you killed died, the wish power attached to them fused with this secret realm world and was absorbed and refined. This also means that the more Ksitagarbha's descendants we kill, the more wish power this world will absorb. Lin Sun could not help but feel a chill in his heart. Did the Hidden Land realm deliberately send these descendants to their deaths? Kill. As Lin Sun spoke, the countless black-robed monks had already swarmed over. No one was afraid of death. Let's go to the Hidden Land realm's lair and kill the hollow-wind Buddhist emperor. Lin Sun did not care about these minor characters at all. He immediately made up his mind and moved through the void with Shi. With their strength, they were unstoppable along the way. They charged out of the encirclement in the blink of an eye. In the distance, a towering, sacred mountain stood. It seemed to be bathed in the darkness of the eternal night, emitting a surging black Buddhist light. At the peak of the sacred mountain, there was an altar-like altar. Looking down from the sky, the altar looked like a closed eye. The bronze lamps were like ribbons, circling the peak of the mountain. The Buddhist lamps burned, scattering bursts of light. At this moment, a group of figures stood on the altar. Regardless of their age, they all gave off the terrifying aura of the martial emperor realm. The leader was a tall, skinny man with a cold appearance. He held a string of black prayer beads in his hand, and his eyes were filled with a frightening indifference. Hollow Wind Buddhist Emperor. The Hidden Land Realm sect master was also a dominating figure in the dark world. The figures behind him were the martial emperor elders of the Hidden Land Realm. When Hollow Wind Buddhist Emperor saw Lin Sun and she approaching from afar, he did not panic. The martial emperors beside him were the same. Everyone's expression and aura were extremely indifferent. If I don't go to hell, who will? At this moment of life and death, if we can kill this heretic Lin Daoyuan, it will be a great merit, Hollow Wind Buddhist Emperor said. Void Wind Buddha the Arch spoke. His voice was cold and emotionless. Chapter 24:07. The black Buddha light was like the curtain of the eternal night covering the sky. At the peak of the sacred mountain, Void Wind Buddha Emperor and his people stood solemnly and calmly. There was no panic, no noise, not even a trace of emotion. In the distance, Lin Sun and she stopped. When they saw this scene, they looked at each other and couldn't help but be shocked. Such an atmosphere was indeed very strange. It was as if they were waiting to meet their deaths. Just you? If I remember correctly, there should be an old thing in the Emperor Ancestor realm who is still alive, right? Lin Sun's voice was indifferent, but it resounded through the sky. His clothes and long hair fluttered in the wind, and he looked calm and disdainful. It doesn't matter anymore. Void Wind Buddha Emperor looked at Lin Sun. Lin Daoyuan, aren't you curious why you were regarded as a heretic by the Hidden Land realm a long time ago? Lin Sun's eyes flashed. Is it because of the Dharma scripture created by holy monk Du Ji and the Black Phoenix Divine Empress? Void Wind Buddha Emperor shook his head. Martial Uncle Du Ji is brilliant. He spent his entire life and finally created an unprecedented scripture. Although he betrayed the Hidden Land realm, it has nothing to do with you being regarded as a heretic. Then why? Lin Sun raised his eyebrows. Void Wind Buddha the Arch laughed. Even though it was a smile, it was filled with indifference. Because you're the greatest calamity in this world. No matter where you go on your path of Tao, you'll cause a huge disaster. If I don't get rid of you, the starry sky ancient path will lead to unimaginable destruction in the future because of you. Lin Sun sneered. How do you know? A strange glow surged within the Void Wind Buddha Emperor's eyes. No matter if it's the omnidirectional Tao battles of the primeval times or the Tao battles of the emperors of the primeval times, they're all related to you. Besides that, You should be aware of the reason why the forbidden energy of order that covers the starry sky appeared, right? Lin Sun frowned and sneered. I have only cultivated for a little over 100 years. Don't you think it's shameless to blame everything that happened in the Antiquity Age and the Primitive Age on me? Void Wind Buddha Emperor said expressionlessly. You're not the only one who has awakened the devouring abyss talent. However, you're the only one who has inherited the heaven-accessing secret land left by the master of Tongtian. This is the root of the disaster. Although your mother, Luo Qingxuan, and your uncle, Luo Qinghe, are both descendants of the sky-reaching lord and have awakened the devouring abyss talent, they have not been recognized by the heaven-accessing secret area. If it wasn't for that, do you think an immortal clan like the Luo clan would spend countless years sealing this starry sky ancient path? Void Wind Buddha Emperor said as he stared at Lin's son. Whether you admit it or not, it's because of your existence that the starry sky is facing all kinds of disasters. Lin Sun's eyes were indifferent, and his state of mind was not disturbed at all. He said, everyone says that the Buddhists are all eloquent and unparalleled in debating. Today, I finally see it. If you want to condemn someone, you can always find a pretext. Void Wind Buddha the Arch actually blamed all the calamities that had happened since ancient times on Jiang Yi. This was completely insane and slandering Jiang Yi. I'm just stating a fact. Void Wind Buddha the Arch was still very calm. Whether it's the 9th elder of the Luo clan called Nameless Supreme Emperor or the 6th elder of the Luo clan called Heavenly Emperor, sure, they're all here to capture you. A disaster. Lin Sun felt that this old bald donkey was too good at talking nonsense. He could forcefully put all kinds of messy karma on him. It was simply ridiculous. Why don't you say that the Nirvana Luo clan is the biggest disaster that has caused so many disasters in the starry sky? Lin Sun said coldly. His heart was already boiling with killing intent. The reason the Hidden Land realm regarded him as a heretic was so ridiculous and strange. Anyone who knew would probably be angry. Void Wind Buddha Thearka's attitude was solemn. If it weren't for you, the people of the Nirvana Luo clan would not have come to the starry sky at all. All right, I finally understand. You're probably used to being dogs of the Nirvana Luo clan all these years. Your words are all about protecting your master. It's understandable. Lin Sun could not be bothered to listen anymore. She's voice was cold from the side. This old thing is buying time. Let's finish this quickly. Kill them first, then find the Nirvana Emperor Ancestor. The Nirvana Emperor Ancestor was the only Emperor Ancestor left in the Hidden Land realm, but he had not appeared next to Void Wind Buddha the Arch. This was very unusual. All right, Lin Sun nodded. Heretic, are you going to... Void Wind Buddha the Arch opened his mouth and wanted to say something. Swish! She had already made his move. A light of order appeared in his palm and turned into a battle spear. He raised his hand and waved it. A blinding sharpness tore through the sky and slashed forward. Do it! Void Wind Buddha Thearka's pupil shrank. He took out a string of black prayer beads in his hand. With a buzz, it attracted the forbidden order power that filled the sky. Obviously, this black prayer bead was the same as the guiding ruler in the hands of Emperor Yuzhong of the Divine Reflection sect. It could borrow the forbidden order power that covered the starry sky. Unfortunately, even Emperor Yuzhong wasn't Shi's match when he borrowed this power, let alone Void Wind Buddha the Arch, who was only at the peak of the 8th level of the Emperor realm. In an instant, the sound of an explosion reverberated in the sky. As the rain of order light collided, Void Wind Buddha Thearka's body was sent flying. Blood flowed from his orifices. The divine mountain that towered into the sky was slashed in half and collapsed with a rumble. This was still because it was protected by the energy of restrictions. Otherwise, the mountain would have definitely been leveled to the ground. Stop them! As soon as he steadied himself, Void Wind Buddha the Arch turned and teleported into the distance. As expected, there is a trap. I will go and kill this person. You deal with these people. Shi's eyes were cold. He lifted his battle spear and rushed forward. Boom! The group of emperors rushed out, disregarding their lives. They tried to stop Shi in a frenzy. They either took out their emperor weapons or used their ultimate techniques. There were 16 of them. Their cultivations ranged from the 3rd to the 8th level of the emperor realm. When they attacked together, their power was terrifying. This was destined to be futile. She waved his battle spear. The 3 emperors blocking Shi's way were like pieces of paper. They were killed on the spot. Their bodies and spiritual souls were crushed into powder. He defeated his enemies with one strike and left unfettered. But this didn't deter the other emperors from the Hidden Land realm. They really didn't fear death and continued to chase. But how could Lin Sun let them do as they wished? Buzz. The abyssal sword cauldron rumbled. Billions of rays of light flowed and whistled out, crushing the void. Its power was immeasurable. In an instant, one of the emperors was crushed into a pool of blood. He died in the void. Kill. Lin Sun's clothes fluttered in the wind. His power was overwhelming. The abyssal Dao sword shot out with a clang. It created a shocking rainbow in the void and slashed forward. Alone, he attacked the group of emperors. The emperors from the Hidden Land realm didn't feel the slightest fear. It was as if they didn't have any emotions. They activated their treasures and attacked Lin Sun fearlessly. Boom! The world was in complete chaos. Mountains and rivers collapsed, and everything was destroyed. Lin Sun rushed across the field alone with great momentum. Every time the abyssal sword cauldron roared, it would crush a wave of attacks. It was unbreakable, indestructible, and invulnerable to all kinds of magic. As the abyssal Dao sword attacked, there were emperors dying from time to time. The bright red rain of blood was like a steaming torrent, drowning the collapsing world. In less than a quarter of an hour, all the emperors in the field were killed on the spot. If this scene was seen by others, they would definitely be terrified and tremble. After all, those were Emperor Realm figures one after another. But now, Lin Sun had killed them all by himself. Lin Sun was already used to this. Over the years, the number of emperors who had died in his hands was too many to count. He was untouched and unharmed. He didn't even look at the bloody mess on the battlefield. His figure turned into a dazzling stream of light and moved across the void. Void Wind Buddha Emperor's sudden retreat not only made she feel that something was wrong, but it also made Lin Sun's heart tremble. He didn't dare to hesitate. Not long after, a black Buddha shrine appeared in Lin Sun's divine sense. This black Buddha shrine was extremely tall. It was tens of thousands of feet tall and towered into the depths of the clouds. It was completely black, and it was unknown what kind of divine material it was made of. The surroundings of the Buddha shrine were surging with the power of will of all living beings. It was like a vast ocean that flowed into the Buddha shrine. The Buddha shrine enshrined a statue that was thousands of feet tall. It sat cross-legged on a lotus platform with 3 heads and 6 arms. It didn't have a face, but there was a closed eye in the middle of its forehead. The statue was shrouded in misty darkness. It was like a god from the darkness, exuding a mighty aura that overlooked the heavens. The power of will of all living beings that flowed in like an ocean was absorbed by this faceless Buddha statue. This scene was extremely strange. However, Lin Sun only took a glance before shifting his gaze. He was in awe. Not far from the Black Buddha shrine, she was fighting an incomparably huge, ferocious beast. The battle was extremely intense, and it threw the mountains and rivers into chaos. Upon closer inspection, the ferocious beast had the head of a lion or tiger, the mouth of a crocodile, the eyes of a python, the ears of a cow or horse, the scales of a fish or snake, the feet of a phoenix, the horns of a cow or deer, the beard of a dragon, and the tail of a dog. This was the 9 odd beasts that Lin Sun had seen before, the ones that were enshrined in every Ksitigarbha temple. However, this was not a god statue, but a living 9 odd beasts. Its figure was extremely enormous, and the roar it emanated was like the thunderclap of the Grand Tao that rumbled through the 9 heavens. Its body emanated a black Buddhist glow that seemed like the order of the Grand Tao, and it shot violently towards the surroundings. It seemed as if it intended to overturn the sky and trample it beneath its feet. Lin Sun couldn't help but be shocked by its might. With Shi's battle prowess, he could easily kill an Emperor ancestor. Now that he controlled the power of order, his battle prowess was already different from before. Even so, the 9 odd ferocious beasts managed to block all of Shi's attacks. Lin Daoyuan, you're too late. Suddenly, the Void Wind Buddha Emperor's voice resounded. He stood before the towering black Buddha shrine with an indifferent gaze. Do you see that? That's the divine beast, hidden in hibernation, condensed from the power of will of all living beings. My hidden land realm's supreme elder, Emperor Ancestor Nirvana, sacrifices life and cultivation to awaken hidden hibernation. However, as long as I can eliminate you 2 heretics today, all the sacrifices were worth it.